December 28, 2017, of meeting of the Oshkosh Common Council. Would the city clerk please take the roll?
Peck.
Here.
Palmieri.
Here.
Allison Osby.
Here.
Herman.
Here.
Kansky.
Here.
Krause.
Here.
Mayor Cummings.
Here.
Present 7.
Would you all please stand while Councilmember Peck leads us in the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance?
We are mindful of the blessings of liberty that we have in this nation. May our decisions tonight improve the quality of life in our city and for our residents. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If our two students would stay in the front for a second, we have something for them as a thank you. And for your Elizabeth. Okay, Elizabeth, would you give us your name, your age, where you go to school, and either your favorite subject or what you're looking forward to with Christmas coming up?
My name is Elizabeth. I'm 11 years old. I go to Valley Christian School, and my favorite subject's reading.
Thank you. And you are Maddie. Any questions for you?
Hi, my name is Madison Clark. I am 10 years old. I go to Valley Christian School, and my favorite subject is spelling.
Okay, thank you. And we have a certificate for each of you. Elizabeth, this is for you. And Maddie, your certificate of appreciation. Now, I bet you'd like to stay and watch the council meeting or go home and study, correct? Okay. Thank you, moms. First on the agenda tonight is an introduction by a new staff member, City Manager Roloff. Would you like to do the introductions, or?
Transportation Director Jim Collins is going to
Okay.
do the introductions this evening.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'm pleased to introduce Corbin Fig. He's our new Transit Operations Manager. So in that role, he'll be responsible for helping us with our grants, our federal and state operating and capital grants, as well as doing a lot of stuff with our technology, our automatic passenger counters, the tablets we have in the buses, and then also overseeing operations and helping with marketing. So doing a little bit of a number of different things, but we're pleased to have him. Corbin comes to us from the Fort Worth Regional Transit Authority down in Texas. And prior to that, he is a native of Indiana and graduated from Indiana University. And while there, he worked for their transit system as a driver and then also worked in the shop. So we're pleased to have him.
Welcome.
Welcome. We have one public hearing tonight and requires 3 readings. There will be no action taken at this council meeting. It will be acted upon on the December 12th meeting. It is Ordinance 17-589. Approve amendment to comprehensive land use maps changing the land use designation for properties generally located at 1610 Oshkosh Avenue to 1746 Oshkosh Avenue from residential to commercial. Second reading, Ordinance 17-589, approve amendment to comprehensive land use maps, changing the land use designation from properties generally located at 1610 Oshkosh Avenue to 1746 Oshkosh Avenue from residential to commercial. Third and final reading, Ordinance 17-589, approve amendment to comprehensive land use maps, changing the land use designation for properties generally located at 1610 Oshkosh Avenue to 1746 Oshkosh Avenue from residential to commercial. Again, this will be acted upon at the December 12 meeting. Angie, did anyone sign up to speak to this?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Next, we have citizen statements. Citizens are to address the council only. Statements are limited to 5 minutes and must address items that are not listed on the council meeting agenda, are limited to issues that have an impact on the city of Oshkosh, and the common council may address at a future meeting, and must not include endorsements of any candidates or other electioneering. Did anyone sign to speak to any of these items?
Yes, Mayor. Deb Martin, 164 Wildwood Drive.
And which item?
Citizen statements.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I'm here with a group of concerned citizens. I learned this summer that there are students in our K-12 system that miss school on occasion because they don't have bus money. And that really seemed troublesome to me, and I was shocked to learn about this. So, because a study was done, I'm part of a group called Esther, and one of the things we're looking at is transportation, public transportation. So a study was done at West High School and also at North, asking students about this. We've been to the school board and talked with them about this issue as well, and we wanted to come in and urge that there be some discussion, dialogue between the city council and the school board of how we can ensure that all our K-12 students are at school, that transportation is not a barrier to them. Of course, this most happens to our middle school and our high school students would be at most at risk because of the distance they may have to travel. The grade schools are pretty much in proximity of where they all live. Then on November 1st, I read in the paper that the city council had approved $8.9 million to help with an overrun of cost for the new stadium for the Herd team. And I'm glad the Herd team's coming. I have nothing against them. But what it made me think, well, if we have money for that, wouldn't we have a few $1,000s that we could help to ensure that all our students can get to school in a safe manner and get to maybe to jobs? We also heard at the school board meeting that there are students that can't stay for after-school program because they don't have a transportation then to get home. Whereas if they had a bus pass, then they could go. Similar to what the UWO and Fox Valley Tech are able to use GO Transit to get to and from school. So we're not asking for a free ride, but just that we find a way in our city to ensure that all students, regardless of their income level, are able to get to our public schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? Next on the agenda.
Okay, no question.
Thank you.
Yes, we have Lauren Rangoloff. If I could just get the address. It's on Oregon Street. Lauren, what's your address?
3020 Oregon.
Thank you.
I'm here because, the inspection service harassment is just terrible. They come up and tell you that they don't do anything unless they got a complaint. Well, it ain't how it happens. Kurt Inspection Services is constantly out there driving and trying to create something. He drives by, sends me notices, and says, I think you're doing something wrong, and then charges you a drive-by fee. It never ends. They wrote me up for my dumpsters behind Tower Paint, and so the dumpster's been there since, I've been buying stuff since the 70s. I got a $1,500 ticket for it because they weren't in an enclosure behind the building. But there's 24 dumpsters, I think I count from the river all the way to 24th Street. Including the ones that are right across the street and next door to me, the school system on 10th Street. None of them are in enclosures, but nobody bothers them. And when I question, I said, well, who made the complaint? And they go, well, it must have been a neighbor. I said, now you're lying because I am the neighbor. I own the property next door. So it can't be the neighbor complaining because it's me. I wouldn't complain on myself. So, I don't know what we can do, but it's never ending. I was up here about a year ago because they were harassing me on my parking lot on the corner where my tenants park and on 9th and Oregon. And it's just, he follows me from one location to another. Drives by and says, I think there's a problem. I told him I had permits out on that property. He didn't care. He just says, here's the corrected or I'm going to send you a ticket. I had permits pulled for the heating and electrical and stuff like that in the house. The next thing is you guys are killing the small businesses with the stormwater. I understand the city's got a water problem, they need to deal with. But on my one parcel, it's over $3,000 every quarter for the water runoff. You guys got to take in consideration. When I bought that property, I didn't plan on paying $3,000 every quarter. Well, actually, it's more than $3,000. And all I got is a toilet and a sink in this building. You know, and your guys are running us broke. You can't afford to be in business in this city anymore. On top of the fact that assessments, I got properties that's gone up as much as 500% in assessments in 7 years. And I haven't done nothing to them. They just keep raising assessments. Every year my assessments get raised. You know, I got a property, that one property I bought it, I paid, I think 60 for it, and that's been 6 years ago, and it's assessed for over 200,000, and I haven't done a thing to it. You know, every year the assessments go up. You guys are, the city is breaking us, small businesses. And you know, when I try to question the tax bills, I get no response, nothing. I mean, you know, I don't know what's going on, if it's just me or if other people in the city are having the same problem. But like I said, I know Kurt's driving around just dreaming up things that he can, you know. So, I mean, it'd be nice if the city could help us do something. You know, but like I said, they're not generating complaints off, you know, inspections off complaints. They're doing it on their own. So, and I'm not the only one that he's doing that to. So, that's all I have to say. And then, like I said, the stormwater would be nice if you guys could help some of the small businesses. I mean, I got just over 5 acres and my stormwater is over $3,000 every quarter. I mean, I'd like to see any one of you make $1,000 or $1,000 water bill a month. You know, like I said, I understand the water, and I don't even have storm sewers. I'm out in an area where there is no storm sewers. And when they built the overpass, they built it so high, it turned my property into a bowl, and I can't get the water off the property. In the center of the property, I get 10 inches of water when it rains. And you can't slope it because I got fiber optic out there by the road. So.
I just had a question in reference to the assessments going up. Are you talking about commercial properties, residential properties, or both that you own?
All of it, everything. Like I said, I got properties that have gone up 300%, 400%, 500% from what I paid for it. And I haven't done nothing to them. And the assessments every year go up. They keep jacking them, and I mean, I can't, you know, I don't know where you're going to stop. Eventually, you're going to break us all. I mean, you can't afford to keep raising assessments, keep raising stormwater. I mean, like I said, I understand there's a water problem you guys are trying to take care of, but you can't take it all at one time. You know, I don't see any of you guys, I don't see too many people who can afford to spend over $1,000 a month for water, especially when you only got a sink and a toilet.
Your time is up.
Now, are you speaking about your water bill?
It's stormwater and water combined.
Okay.
It's one bill.
All right.
And it's over $3,000 every quarter. Okay. And I got just 4 or 5 acres, I think it is. That's a lot of money. But like I said, you know, between the assessments and the stormwater, and now it's just the constant harassment from this, you know, from the inspection department. Like I said, my dumpster was just terrible. You know, a $1,500 fine it was because it wasn't in the enclosure. I said, it's been in there. He said, well, it moves. I said, fine.
Please wrap up. Your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next up for citizen statements, Jennifer Considine.
Good evening. I am here to talk about the same issue that Deb was here to talk about, and I've also provided a report and a couple of different handouts for you as well. So thank you for having me here tonight. I've been a member of the community for about 10 years. I teach at UW Oshkosh in the communication department. And I'm also a member of Esther, which is an interfaith social justice group here in town. And just want to share with you a story. A couple weeks ago, I was meeting with a social worker from Oshkosh North, and she shared with me that every other day, at least every other day, she has a student come up and ask for money for a bus pass because they can't afford what is only $2. There's a very affordable transit fee here in town, but their family can't afford that transit fee to get the students to and from school. And what you'll see in the report I provided you is those students who are asking are not alone. We did a survey last semester in May of 705 high school students here in this community, and found out a couple of things. One of them is that 26%, which equates to 189 students, have missed at least one day of school this year due to a lack of access to affordable transportation. And this is particularly kids who live within the city limits. Because as you may know, the state law has this thing called the city option, and so the school district does not have to provide transportation to children who live within the city. And when they're going to an elementary school, which is a neighborhood school, which is only a mile, that walking is not quite as hard. But in the winter, when you're going to the middle school or the high school, we have students who are trying to figure out how to get 4 miles sometimes one way to school and back to school. We also found that 32% of students worrisome about affordability. And we do know that some students are riding the bus. In our survey, 127 have ridden Go Transit, and we've had conversations with Jim and Go Transit, and they've been great about having conversations about what we can do as a community to have a comprehensive solution to this issue, and that's why I come before you tonight. We've also, as Deb said, presented to the school board, but I think this is an issue that we as an entire community need to look at of how do we create accessible routes to school for all of our school children. And I also think it's not just about getting to school, right? We have employers in this town who like to have high school students come over after work. And some of those high school students can't get to those jobs because they simply can't afford the bus fare. So what we are asking for as a potential solution, or proposing as a solution, is a revenue agreement between Go Transit and the school district. Go Transit has estimated this would be about $50,000, but something that needs to be negotiated between the school district and between Go Transit to figure out how we get these students to and from school. We certainly already have those revenue agreements with UW Oshkosh, where all faculty, staff, and students can ride the bus for free, as well as with Fox Valley Technical College. There's precedent to do this in the area. Green Bay just this year started a revenue agreement where all Green Bay public school students over 7 can ride the buses to and from school for free. Appleton has been doing this for many years. The Urban Institute just released a study in 2017 talking about how this benefits not only the families and the students, but the community as a whole, as we saw less traffic congestion in these areas, less issues with truancy, which put less pressure even on juvenile court systems who were getting engaged with truant students. So I think there are many reasons why a revenue agreement would be a great thing to see in this community. And I come before you tonight as a citizen to encourage that this is something that gets addressed at the council level, sent to the Transit Advisory Board, and also might be an agenda item when you have a joint meeting with the school board in town as well. Thank you.
Quick question for you.
Yeah.
And as this is probably a very anachronistic idea, what about carpooling? I remember sharing rides with my friends, and if I was late at participating in an after-school activity, I arranged with one of my teammates to get a ride home, or one night we would drive, the following night someone else drove. Many of the points you make are great, but sometimes the simplest solution is the easiest and the cheapest. Has your organization addressed trying to build out is to work with those things, is to have those opportunities?
So I will say a couple of things. One, I will say we haven't specifically as an organization addressed carpooling, and I think you're right? I think carpooling, I think walking, I think biking, these are all potential solutions for families, but I also think that there are some families in our community that they don't have a vehicle, and they might not even live close to somebody else that has a vehicle. And as someone who regularly carpools and takes other high school students to and from school, right, and I'm happy to do that when I can, but I know that's sort of an additional burden on that family to depend on somebody else, and they'd love their kids to have the freedom and the ability to take the bus. And one of the things that we've found, right, is that when we get people taking the bus in high school, then they become bus riders for their lives, which is good for our public transit system as a whole if they're riding after that. So I don't disagree at all. I think carpooling is part of the solution, but I think a revenue agreement is also another possible part of the solution.
Councilmember Palmieri.
Yes, thanks, Professor Considine. We spoke about this earlier this week. I'm really grateful to all of you at Esther that you brought this to our attention, and I'm hopeful that the Transit Advisory Board, you'll have an opportunity to present to them. I'm also hopeful that the school district and council at perhaps a future joint workshop can take up this topic as well. As a more than part-time chauffeur to an 11 and 16-year-old with high schools and middle schools, I get it. And there are any number of folks that we end up giving rides to. And so I really appreciate you guys taking the time to put this together and bring it to our attention. Thanks.
Councilmember Pansky.
Thank you. Just the only question that I agree that we have a little bit of work to do on this issue, but the only question is, how do you guarantee that these students are using the bus passes to go to school and not to
skip school and go someplace else. Now that we put a free pass into their hand, I mean, I don't know if you've worked with any of the other communities, but do the drivers have some responsibility then to make sure that they're using it appropriately, or how do you monitor that?
Yeah, so I think that's an absolutely fair question. I have not seen research from other communities looking at how they do that. I certainly think there are certain routes that students would just take to get to school, right? And if they're not using the bus pass to get to school and they're truant, that's going to be found out by the district and addressed by the social workers as well.
Well, because I know one of the points is that you're addressing truancy. I mean, I don't want to encourage it
Right.
either by then giving them a free ride to the movie theater or wherever else is accessible. But what is the time frame on getting this worked out? I mean, I would assume you would have loved for this to happen yesterday, but what do you see the time frame as being in this process?
I think I will back up and say two things. One, there was a study done in Los Angeles when they did this, and truancy went down dramatically. Well, dramatically as much as truancy goes down, but it went down by 7%. So there was an impact on truancy in the right direction. So that's a good thing. In terms of timeline, I mean, I think as soon as possible, right? Green Bay kicked theirs off at the beginning of the school year, which I think is a good time to kick it off at the beginning of the school year and have a conversation about what kind of education needs to go on for the community and the school as well in order to do that. As a short-term solution this winter, we are doing some fundraisers as a group to provide some transportation assistance to those students who currently are having trouble.
How can the community help in the meantime until we get this sorted out?
Yeah, great question. So we are, as Esther, through the Emmaus Ecumenical Catholic Community, are collecting funds that will be given to the school district in order to provide meet those short-term transportation needs, so to provide bus tokens and those sorts of things. And so certainly we can get those funds to the district for them. Thank you.
Councilmember Allison Osby.
Thank you. I would like to share the comments of Ms. Palmieri, and thank you for the efforts and the comments, and I'm glad that we're addressing this issue. I mean, I'm certainly a proponent of dealing with poverty, especially how it impacts our kids. But, you know, just so you understand, from our point of view, it's not that the 7 of us are evil or that our transportation director is evil. I can tell you in the last over 6 years, we've watched the monies that typically come in from the state for transportation cut by, what, $500,000 to $750,000 over the last 6.5 years. And so while we have the needs of the children, on the flip side, we also have the disabled, we also have the elderly, and so we also have to try to figure out how to make things work for them as well. So again, it's not necessarily that we don't want to support the kids, but we have another 2 significant groups that we also have to address their needs as well. But I'm glad we're talking about it, and you know, we can always improve and certainly try to address all the needs that we have in our community.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's why it needs to be a community-wide conversation between the council, between the school district, maybe even private employers or donors in the community who want to step forward to see this happen.
Just one last question. What did you estimate the cost of this being?
The estimate of the cost is about $63,000. The school district is already paying between $13,000 and $19,000 to Go Transit, so it would be about an additional $50,000.
Deputy Mayor Herman.
I guess I would just address as city manager. It seems to be a community issue that needs to be addressed, so I guess let's get the ball rolling and get it in front of our boards and commissions that can at least, looks like the study's already been done, so maybe we can just start that talk. And I know that Mr. Fitzpatrick meets with the school district people periodically on a quarterly basis, I believe. So maybe that conversation can be started already. And I know our budgets are being done now, so it might be something that may have to wait for the following school year if possible. But I think it's a good opportunity to get the ball rolling now versus.
I really believe that this issue is getting addressed in our transportation development plan. The Transit Advisory Board will be taking up this issue. We're redoing our transportation development plan, TDP, and this is certainly an issue that's going to be in there that I think would be appropriate, and you know, perhaps a joint discussion. Somebody asked me when the last time we had a joint meeting with the school board. It's been a while, so
yeah.
Now we have a topic to talk about. So
okay,
it might
Sounds
be a good
good.
idea.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
And anyone else?
Bill Van Lopek, 25 18 West Sunnyview Circle, Appleton.
Yes, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Bill Van Lopik. I'm the organizer with Esther Fox Valley, and just wanted to reiterate a little bit what Jennifer and Deb already said, that this is important. We've talked to all of the school counselors from all the different schools, and they said if you can solve this issue, you'll be doing a great service for the city, because this is something that we need. Also, addressing the issue of poverty, recent studies show that now children are the highest demographic group that live in poverty in the state of Wisconsin. It used to be seniors, but now it is children. Over 22% of all children are living in poverty in the state of Wisconsin. So this is really a direct issue that affects them. I want to just say a couple points that we were excited about what happened in Green Bay, and how all kids, no matter from 8 years or 7 years up, can take the school. And I wanted to give you just a couple reasons of why they approved this, and I think that applies to Oshkosh also. They said in their agreement, it helps students get to and from school and to other activities or otherwise. It enables them to get to work. It enables them to attend summer school, get home from practice. This ability gives them the ability to be independent, to get to these destinations without having to rely on parents. Lessens the burden for everyone. Number two, it introduces some students to mass transit. And we talked to school counselors. They said the most well-adjusted students in our school are the ones that are using mass transit because they feel independent. They can get around. They don't have to rely on others. So they learn by riding the bus. It doesn't have to be a scary or intimidating experience in the way that the unknown can be. Number three, it lessens the congestion on city streets. Number four, it's educational. That might not be the overriding goal of the program, but it's a nice side effect. Students who ride the bus need to check bus routes and make a plan on how to get to their destination. It requires more work than plugging an address into an iPhone and just driving there. Number five, it can lead to healthier communities. Recent University of Illinois study shows that investing in convenient and affordable public transit systems improves public health by reducing obesity, thereby providing more value than had been previously thought. So those are just some of the rationale that they use for approving it in Green Bay. And like another quote that I like, given by the school board, the district superintendent said, "The reason we are excited about this is we believe that this provides equity and access for our students to a variety of opportunities across the city and throughout the district." So I think that's why we feel, as Esther and the group that's been working on this for the last year, that this is an important issue also for Oshkosh. Thank you.
Just real quick. Yeah, I agree with the importance of this. Now, as Councilor Allison Osby mentioned, the state has reduced transportation funding, which has impacted our ability to address the different groups that we have to. Has your group addressed this at the state level? Because in your comments, you basically said this is a statewide issue.
Yes, we have.
So if it is a yes, it's a local issue too. I think it's a statewide issue. You know, we could use some help from, we want to help your organization out, but by the same token, what we're asking you is help us out at the state level to get them to step up to the plate and fulfill their responsibilities, because as you indicated, this is a statewide issue. This is not just simply Oshkosh. I'm sure that this issue, while it wasn't mentioned, I would imagine this happens down in Fond du Lac. It happens in Sheboygan, Madison, wherever else there is. So, you know, as it's been indicated, we'll be looking at this, but, you know, I would urge you to basically bark up every possible tree.
And we have been. We have given numerous testimony at the Joint Finance Committee this past spring A number of our members have spoken before that, advocating for more transportation dollars for public transportation, and looking at, there seems to be billions of dollars available for superhighways, and but just a small amount for public transportation. So we are definitely advocating also at the state.
Gentleman right there with his head down. You might want in the third row.
Yeah.
Just looked up at you.
Okay.
I'd suggest you talk to him.
Okay.
He buys, well, they don't, that's right, they don't print papers anymore. It's all on the net. But I'm sure he'd be willing, he'd be more than happy to write a story about this.
I think he's on our list, yeah.
All right.
Okay,
great.
thank you.
Thank you. Ange, is there anyone else?
I have no one else, Mayor.
Hi. I just had a point. Even though it probably is a state issue, I mean, every city that's in the Fox Valley or around the state that are progressive, this is a type of thing that would be desirable for new families moving into the areas. So I think this would be we could be a leader here and not be a follower. So, thank you.
All right, we're now at the point of consent agenda items, and those are items that are routine administrative nature that are voted on by the council in a single roll call vote. Staff recommends approval of all items. Any member of the public or common council may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda for discussion. Angie, did anyone sign up for any of the items on the consent agenda?
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. I see no lights are lighting up, so would you please take the roll?
Peck?
Aye.
Palmieri?
Aye.
Allison Osby?
Aye.
Herman?
Aye.
Hansky?
Aye.
Rousey?
Aye.
Mayor Cummings?
Aye.
Carried 7.
Now at pending ordinances, the first is ordinance 17-572. Approve amendment to comprehensive land use maps changing the land use designation for properties located on the south side of State Highway 91 between Clairville Road and State Highway 44 from industrial to commercial. And Plan Commission recommends approval. And did anyone sign up to speak to this?
Yes, I have Jack Q. Miller, 401 Ranger, Moisany.
Hi, I'm Jackie Miller with SC Swiderski, and I just wanted to make a few comments. At the last council meeting when this issue was discussed, there were some questions about the need for apartments in the area. So I just wanted to first state that we are not only proposing to be the developer of this project, we also are a real estate investor. So this is a property that we would be owning and managing. So I just wanted to bring some information about the need for apartments in the area. The Plan Commission had testimony and discussion over several meetings, and they came to this conclusion and put this proposal they're recommending to you because they had the benefit of hearing this. So I just wanted to make sure you had the same information. The responsibility and the risk of this project would be on us, the developer, and we have done over 20 projects in the area, and we have a 96% occupancy rate at our apartments. So there's a lot of time and research that goes into finding ideal locations for our properties. So we're seeking to make a private investment in your community and assuming the risk of finding the tenants for our property. We know Oshkosh has seen the vacancy rate for multifamily units decrease year after year for the last 4 years, and it's currently at 3.9%. So during this time over the last 4 years, rent rates have increased every single year while new units have been added to the marketplace. So these are very strong signs that there is demand for multifamily in your area, and it's not being met by the current projects. Other Wisconsin communities have made statements saying that they feel that their community's growth are being stalled by not having adequate housing, and we think that's something that Oshkosh should be looking at as well, having these opportunities for adequate housing for your residents. So the issue at hand today is not specific to our development getting approved. So it's a broader area that we're looking to get zoned commercial, which would mean that in the future, you would still have an opportunity to weigh in on our development and our specific plans. We would still have to go forward with conditional use approval. We would also have several more meetings to get our project approved. So you're not actually voting on approving the projects at this point. The research that went into this proposal for the broader area being rezoned to commercial, I think has a lot of validity. So if you look through those reports, you can see that the area that is available for industrial land is quite vast, and it has kind of stalled. So there hasn't been a lot of growth in that area. So rezoning this smaller portion to commercial might be a good impetus for other developments to take place. So that's what we're looking at today, not specifically our apartment proposal. So as a private company wanting to invest in your city, provided needed housing for current and new residents in your area and a tax base, I really think that this proposal would be a first step. If this goes through, then our company can move forward on our project by doing more research and coming back to you so you can weigh in on our project at that point. But that's not what's under the vote for today. Any questions?
I see none, thank you. Angie, is anyone who wanted to?
Jason White, 1204 Fairfax Street.
We've got a couple of different roles in this project. First, Greater Oshkosh EDC is responsible for administering the restricted covenants for the business, aviation, and industrial parks in the city of Oshkosh. And second, we're responsible, obviously, for helping the tenants in those parks grow while marketing those parks for new opportunities. This effort has gone on for about a year at this point. On January 27th, we were asked to have our Industrial Development Committee weigh in on the potential apartment project that Jackie just described at the proposed location marked on your map as the petitioner's request. And after a thorough discussion of the matter by our committee, which includes several industrial business representatives, the committee determined that it could not find any compelling reason to oppose the project from advancing to the next stage. City staff believe that the next stage should be a joint meeting on March 7th of our Industrial Development Committee and the Plan Commission to discuss the project further. Mr. Burrich laid out some great information about the housing market, population growth trends of our community or lack thereof, and the availability of industrial land. We also discussed the potential of this project to serve as a tool for attracting employees to businesses in the Southwest Industrial Park. Nearly all believed that based on the available information, the project's proposed location, and the surrounding land uses, that we should not impede further investigative efforts for this project at the proposed site. On August 15th, the Plan Commission held a workshop that was entitled Neighborhood Meeting Comp Plan Land Use Amendment. Based on the generic description, we were not aware that this workshop would involve a discussion of the large area inside and in the vicinity of the Southwest Industrial Park, or that there would be a proposed comp plan change to commercial mixed use. At the September 19th Plan Commission meeting, the Plan Commission supported the recommendation before you to initiate a land use change from industrial use to mixed commercial use for the area identified with this proposed resolution tonight. I spoke in favor of the multifamily project on the 19th. I did not speak for or against the staff-initiated portion of the amendment request for commercial mixed use. Our Industrial Development Committee has not weighed in on the staff-initiated proposed action. Given the committee's charge, I suspect that they would probably have substantial discussion about the implications. So here's the quandary for us. We support this project. We support SC Soderski's project, number one. Number two, we support maintaining the integrity of the Southwest Industrial Park, keeping all of our options open, particularly with the potential created with the new transload facility. I believe as much acreage to the west of the parcel as possible should be preserved for future industrial use. I do not personally believe that this is ready for council action this evening. I do believe that there is a pathway, however. The lot immediately to the west of the petitioner's site is not easily developable, and with a 10-foot elevation drop, this also serves as its own kind of buffer, starting with the petitioner's site and going east with the commercial or business park use seems to make some sense while leaving the existing area industrial. So my suggestion would be to send the proposed land use amendment back to the Plan Commission to consider council concerns. And I would also like to bring these concerns back to my committee to receive their input. And then once all have a chance to weigh in, all concerns addressed, if they are, then we could come back to the council. So that's my 2 cents. I respect your judgment, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Angie?
Gary Eke, 947 Trillium Trail.
Gary Eke, 947 Trillium Trail. I also own GRO Real Estate, Commercial and Industrial, and I represent the seller of the property here that's interested in marketing the property, selling the property to the Swiderskis. I'm going to give you just a brief overview of the events and the Plan Commission meetings and comments. On June 15th, I was first contacted by a Swiderski representative, and they represented themselves as a reputable commercial or construction and real estate investment firm out of Mosinee, Wisconsin. We toured several sites, and ultimately, after significant marketing research, the site fronting on State Road 44 and 91 was selected as the best option for their demographic. Now, technically, before that, Swiderski contacted planning, attended meetings, and submitted concept plans and revised the plans per the planning staff suggestions probably more than once or whatever, so they've made a significant effort at significant expense at that point early on. Now, technically, the proposed Swiderski development is not before you tonight for your approval. However, Swiderski's interest triggered the Plan Commission staff to ask if perhaps a review of the comprehensive plan was in order. Obviously, they did. It is also important to clarify that the proposed comp plan change is not to residential, but to commercial mixed use. This designation allows multifamily development only after obtaining a conditional use permit. After a 7 or 8 month review, the Plan Commission staff submitted a 17-page report to the Plan Commission. Some, but not all, of the report highlights are: given the mixed-use nature of the subject area, residential and commercial, staff is recommending a land use change to commercial mixed use with SMU zoning to accomplish this. Second highlight is, from 1982 to 2016, city industrial park land sales were an average of 5.88 acres per year, and there were no Southwest Industrial Park land sales between 2010 and 2016. From a land use perspective, is another point. From a land use perspective, based on the available supply of lands within the city, at the absorption rate, there is about a 60-year supply of lands within the Southwest Industrial Park available for development, and about a 127-year supply citywide. For lands currently mapped industrial within the Southwest Industrial Parks area, there is an approximate, within the Southwest Industrial area, there is an approximate 229-year supply of industrial park land, and that includes the subject land use amendment area, which, if adjusted out due to the proposed amendment, would drop the supply to 208 years. To be fair, these are raw numbers, not accounting for wetlands, future roads, and regional detention, which will drop this number by at least 1/3. After the proposed comprehensive land change minus the 125 acres, this would leave the city with about 140-year inventory of net developable industrial land. Regarding residential land use, the staff stated, while there appears to be enough land to develop within the existing boundaries, this doesn't mean that these properties are available to development and on the market or in the right location for consumer demand. During the Plan Commission workshop, the applicant, Swiderski, stated that they prefer to develop in locations such as the subject area that are near transportation routes, employment, and retail and commercial services, which are in close proximity. The most recent Department of Administration population forecasts show Oshkosh at $69,250 in 2020, escalating to $73,800 by 2040. The existing housing supply cannot absorb that capacity, especially given the fact that households are getting smaller and areas must be redeveloped, infilled, or areas will be added to the community to accommodate this growth.
Would you please wrap up your comments?
One more paragraph. Noise concerns for the transload facility were a concern at the last meeting. Therefore, the seller of the property has provided each of you via email with a 24-page report created in cooperation with the City of Oshkosh Economic Development Services Manager. This information seems to validate that noise from the transload facility is a non-issue. Swiderski is proposing a $10 to $12 million development with their own money. They are not asking for TIF money, infrastructure installation, or other financial incentives. Their development would be a great addition to the tax roll. And it was recommended by the Plan Commission.
Thank you. Angie, anyone else?
Yep.
With one dissenting vote at the Plan Commission.
I know I was there. Angie?
Jason Murphy, 1179 McCann Drive, Sun Prairie.
Good evening. Jason Murphy, representing Watco Companies, LLC. Here to discuss the proposed land use to the west of the current development. First, I'd like to start by saying that Watco does not disagree with the development of the apartment complex where it's proposed now. Where we have some serious concern is to the west of that current development. I would disagree with one of the earlier speakers in saying that industrial development in Oshkosh has stagnated. I would very much disagree with that from our perspective. We see Oshkosh as probably the greatest area of growth for the WSOR Railroad, Wisconsin and Southern Railroad, on our entire system. We're the second largest railroad in the state of Wisconsin by track miles, and this is the #1 growth area for our railroad. So right now we do about 4,000 carloads a year directly out of Oshkosh on that railroad. We're projecting that by 2020 that's going to be 10,000. We have currently 5 opportunities that we're actively working on in Oshkosh in the Southwest Industrial Park now. Obviously, you can't name names yet, but there's 5 active opportunities that I would place over 50% probability. So when you talk about industry in Oshkosh stagnating, I would disagree with that entirely. We do not have any issue if the land use was changed to the east. Most of the development we're looking at is to the west from Global Parkway and to the south of Global Parkway. And actually one of the opportunities that we have now is directly in the parcel to the northwest of the proposed change to the land use. There's 2 interested parties in that parcel that are both heavy industrial. So from our perspective, no issues with the apartment complex. Do have an issue with the land use to the west of that existing development, and would propose that the Planning Commission reevaluate their decision and look to the east potentially to keep it away from the railroad tracks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Angie?
No one else is registered.
Yeah, we'll bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Barish, I have a question for you. Not a question, but so everyone understands, both in the audience as well as my colleagues, that we are voting only on an amendment to a comprehensive land use map only. This has nothing to do with the development.
That is correct. It's only for our comprehensive land use plan map. It's not a zone change. The properties south of 91 actually aren't in the community yet. So if we change the land use maps, there's still a long road ahead for any approval in that particular area. It requires annexation, zone changes, things like that.
Okay, so it's strictly the change to the land use plan.
Correct.
Councilmember Allison Osby.
Thank you. And I'm glad that there was clarification on that. In regards to some comments made before, certainly I don't necessarily have an issue with the project itself. I do have some questions about the project. I like the theory behind it. I guess future questions would be, you know, when it comes to having something pertaining to employment, does that mean eventually that that apartment or management will be month to month, or will it be yearly? But it's interesting that Mr. White had come up, because those are some of the things that, you know, I had concerns about the last meeting when it came up. So I know I am not prepared to vote on this evening. I would rather have it come back to council than to flat out say no.
Councilmember Palmieri.
Ms. Burge, just a, I guess, a kind of a clarification here. So the Plan Commission recommendation was for a change from to commercial mixed use, and I guess maybe this is just a minor tweak here, but what we're looking at here is just kind of a request to change this to commercial by itself. So can you just help explain that a little bit?
The fine line is, in our comp plan, our current comp plan, we're working on with the update, our comp plan right now only has commercial land use designation. But we have a bunch of zoning districts that are all mixed use. So what we were saying with that is, when we implement the commercial, we'll be implementing a commercial mixed use land use with our zoning, which will be a suburban mixed use zone. So it's two things.
Yeah, I kind of think there was some confusion surrounding that, so thanks for sharing that.
Councilmember Pansky.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Darren. I do support the petitioner's request. However, I'm having some difficulty with the remaining lands to the west of that. So can you just explain that, why staff initiated this particular request and the timeline with that? I'm assuming that this came after their request.
Yes.
So
sure.
can you?
Let me go.
Thank you.
All right. So here. Hold up. Technology fails me all the time. This is really explaining it when I can show these maps. So, I got it up here, Scott.
Well, I guess in the meantime, then I would agree with Councilmember Allison Osby and put this off until we can.
I mean, this is.
We have that more of
Not you don't have these maps. We prepared these maps today. So the yellow here on this map, you can see it. That is what the original petitioner requested. Now, from a land use perspective, they requested to put a spot of residential in the middle of a large assemblage of manufacturing. From a planning standpoint, we didn't think that was a good idea. So what we did was we said, okay, let's look at that broader area. We then looked at that broader area, which took it up to go down to 44. So we looked at the broad area and said, let's take a look at this from a zoning perspective, or from a land use perspective, and see if we should maybe look at alternatives based on trends, things like that. So what we did, and we got comments. So we got comments about concerns about manufacturing over here towards the western end of the site. And I'm sorry, I'm not on this. Manufacturing on the western end of the site. So when we went back and had some workshops with Plan Commission, what happened was we settled in. We moved that line back about a quarter mile, half mile, to, I think that's Global coming through there. We moved that mixed use, or that commercial line back to that area based on those comments. And so that's where we ended up with the Plan Commission recommendation and staff report. We started out going out to Clairville, had the discussions, the workshops, heard the concerns, and moved that area back to the point where it is today. Our concern, and again, we can talk about that with the Plan Commission, if we just take it to that parcel line where the subject parcel is for the Sidursky, and we don't do it to the west, we set up a situation where all those lands to the west can now be heavy industrial. And the concern that we've heard about putting heavy industrial right next to residential, we'd be doing that with our land use plan because we'd be allowing heavy industrial right next to residential. The reason why we settled on the commercial category was that suburban mixed use allows light industrial through conditional use permit. It allows the apartments through conditional use permit, but it also allows light industrial through that process. So it doesn't hinder from a zoning perspective or a land use perspective, future industrial growth into that area. And the maps will really help that.
Thank you.
One question for you. I mean, Darren, I don't know if you want to go back there or stay where you are, but if we approve a change to the comprehensive land use map from industrial commercial for this piece of property, and this is not going to sound the way I mean it, but a different developer could come through with a better development, correct?
Sure. What it does is it just simply says, it doesn't hold the community to just really heavy industrial in that particular area. It opens it up to other uses. It opens it up to residential, it opens it up to commercial, it opens it up to offices, things like that. So it's more of a mixed-use district than just that heavy industrial land use designation.
So the development that we keep talking about, which is really kind of premature for this, something else may happen, could happen.
Correct. The city still has all the, it's up to us whether we want to annex that property. It's up to us what zoning designation. We can add a planned development designation to it. It's gonna, whatever property develops in there, residential, if it comes through as a suburban mixed use district, there's a lot of that stuff in there is conditional use permit. So most of the stuff coming through will have to go through conditional use permit, and again, we can place the PD on it, and that would require an extra level of review.
So what you're saying is we should focus only on the change in the mapping? And not a development?
Correct.
This is a one-issue ordinance, basically?
Correct. I mean, it's going to change the land use, and the land use would allow for that in the future if we approve it, if we annex it, if we, so there's other reviews, not just with this zone change. It's zone change, or see, I got caught myself. It's just a land use change. It's not a change in zoning.
Councilmember Palmieri.
Mr. Burridge, just two things here. For the viewers at home, number one, could you just give a quick little description of the difference between heavy and light industrial, just so folks know? And then the second piece of this is, I guess I have some, some concerns. We've talked about our TDP, the Transit Development Plan being revised. We've talked about concerns about transportation tonight and in other forums. And I guess, help this council understand how going in this direction does not promote further sprawl and spatial mismatch, because currently it's my understanding that our buses do not go out that far.
First of all, the heavy industrial is light industrial, our factory operations were vast majority, it's assembly, it's fabrication, things that happen it's generally happening on the inside of a structure. You don't have a lot of outside storage, you don't have a lot of things that you see with your standard old-time heavy industrial with the smokestacks and things like that. So it's we allow light industrial in our commercial districts because they're generally not very innocuous land uses. They don't have a lot of negative effects on the neighborhoods, which is why we allow them to conditional use permit, because we want to be able to control that, but they're generally less intense industrial uses. The heavier uses are the larger ones, Oshkosh Corp, things like that, where you have a lot of heavy on manufacturing and a lot of product storage outside, things like that. From a land use, from a sprawl standpoint, it doesn't, until we start actually developing it and having those questions and talking about just what you're talking about. Is it on a bus line? How the people getting served by various services? It's somewhat premature in that we're just doing a land use change, because right now somebody could come in here and it's not happening. They could develop the entire area for manufacturing, and we'd have some of those same questions. Is there capacities in the area to serve those employees out there? So from right now, at this point, all it is a land use. We're looking at the land use map. Yes, is it going to set up at some point if we go forward in this direction? Will we be having those discussions about the TDP and all that? Yeah, we should have those discussions, but they'll be part of an actual development that we are actually responding to at the time and when the property is in the city. We're going to continue to try and do good land use planning by designating those areas in those growth areas of our community. We have to do that as a community because these areas are going to grow. We have to have a land use plan in effect for those areas as we grow.
Excuse me, but have we actually met those growth targets that have been projected? Because it sounds like in one document, we've said we are, and in another one, we're saying we're not. And there's some conflicting, I guess, information about whether or not we're actually meeting some of the growth in terms of population, in terms of,
But it depends on what document, what year you're looking at. I can tell you that our growth in this community is relatively low. It's under 1%. Now, is that because we don't have enough housing? Is that for other things on the market that requires a more detailed housing analysis, which is, the HUD has actually just came through and done that, and we're waiting on that to come back right now. But from our perspective, there's not, we're not growing very quickly. From a population standpoint. And is it the vacancy rate? Is it because we're not providing enough houses? I don't know. I know that we have enough. I know that, if we start to look at the lands, there are vacant lands right inside the community that can be developed for residential. But are they available? Are we going to sit and hold until such time as those people are willing and ready to develop? That becomes a decision that we as a community will go through on things like this when we annex properties.
Deputy Mayor Herman.
Thank you, Mayor. So this land is actually in the town of Nakaimai, correct? And in our land use agreement with the town of Nakaimai, is this land that we are going to be annexing, or will be petitioning annex, or when is that part of that land going to be?
As part of the boundary agreement that we have with them, this is considered a city expansion area. It's not a quote-unquote protected area. The protected area of the towns are those areas where we don't exert any type of land use control, official mapping, plat control. That is somewhat to the south yet.
Okay.
So yeah, no, this is in a city expansion area per the plans.
Okay, so, all right. And then the second thing is, it's not in the airport overlay. Do we have any issues with that? Because I know that there's been some of that a little bit over time. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Allison Osby.
Thank you. I guess I just want to say I extremely, very much appreciate the interest from, somebody outside of the area to want to come into Oshkosh and want to develop. And I definitely appreciate your time, Darren, as well as the other staff members that you have. My concern is regarding this area is I don't want to take it lightly. We talk about many times that we, about how decades before there may have not been vision or things well thought out. And while this is probably something you've been very actively a part of, council obviously has had some pretty big things that have been on our plates the last couple of months. And of course, we've got budget, we've got CIP. I just want to make sure we're doing the right thing. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing, but I'm not convinced it's the right thing either. So I personally would like to make a motion that we send this back for further consideration.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, just clarification. I think it's obvious, but send it back to the Plan Commission?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask one question too? If we're if it does go that way and we refer it back, is there any other additional information you'd like us to explore? What kind of things do you want us to look at if you can think about that and get that to me, that would certainly help us in our review, please.
Absolutely.
And just one question regarding growth. I know we know residential growth is pretty flat here, but we see a lot of it in the outlying areas, town of Algoma, town of Black Wolf. So the area, there's growth, but not specifically in the city of Oshkosh, like that we'd like to see. And we're limited in land too, as far as new housing. Deputy Mayor Herman.
Thank you. Mr. Birch, to your question, I guess, Jason White and GoEDC has been involved in this project, and he mentioned a couple of his committees, so I think it would be important that they stay engaged and involved. And I guess to council member, I think it was Palmieri or Pansky, one of them, about future of expansion. So maybe the Department of Transportation from the city should be engaged in this. Watco's talking about how they look like they're going to be expanding their services within the park. So I think all of that needs to be part of this discussion. People working out there, how are we going to get people to work? We had that discussion with Esther of students, so I think it's a bigger picture in some ways, is if our growth is to the southwest, that it's not just land use map, it's future planning of land use. And again, we've kind of talked about, things that have happened over the years where we weren't doing visioning. This load station hasn't opened up yet. And so we don't really know. I mean, we went together to build this whole thing to solve a problem in the city. Are we just gonna create another problem 10, 15 years down the line if we don't plan it out right now? And I guess that's why I'll support taking it back to your group and look a little deeper and, all those people that are involved in this to stay engaged so that when it comes back to council, we feel that we have all the information. Because like you said, I wish we had those maps a week ago, but you weren't able to get them to us, so that's okay. So that's my recommendation, is to keep GoEDC engaged, keep WACO engaged, keep landowners engaged, and eventually we'll probably have to do an annexation thing. So, okay, thank you.
Would you please take the roll?
Heck.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Allison Osby. Aye. Herman.
Aye.
Pansky.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Mayor Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
Next, we have ordinance 17-573, amend chapter 16 Housing Code of the Municipal Code to create section 16-33, paren A, close paren 10, close paren, pertaining to carbon monoxide detectors, and section 16-46, paren B, close paren, pertaining to carbon monoxide detectors penalties. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to this?
No one is registered.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the council for a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Would you please take the roll?
Heck.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Pansky.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Mayor Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
Ordinance 17-574, repeal and recreate portions of Chapter 13, Fire Prevention, to adopt and updated provisions of the International Fire Code, in parens IFC, close parens, and pertaining to the forfeiture of smoke detector / carbon monoxide detector violations. Has anyone signed up to speak to this?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Bring it back to the council for a motion in a second.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion? Please take the roll.
Peck.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Pansky.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Mayor Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
We have the ordinance 17-575, approved zone change from I institutional district to I-PD institutional district with planned development overlay, 425 Lakeshore Drive, water filtration plant, and the Plan Commission recommends approval. Has anyone assigned to speak to this?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Please take the roll.
Peck.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Pansky.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Mayor Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
New ordinance, the first is ordinance 17-576, designate bike lanes on both sides of Wisconsin Street from the Riverwalk sidewalk connections on the north end of the bridge to Irving Avenue. Is anyone registered to speak to this?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
It's first
It's
reading.
first
reading.
Oh, I'm sorry, first reading. Okay, moving on. Ordinance 17-578, modify parking regulations on New York Avenue. Staff recommends waiving the rules and adopting on first reading. Councilman Peck?
I would move to waive the rules to approve on first reading.
Second?
Discussion? Please take the vote.
Peck.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Pansky.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Mayor Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
Ordinance 17-578, modify parking regulations on New York Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Would you please take the roll?
Peck.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Pansky.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Mayor Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
Ordinance -17-579, establish street grades / third edition to Casey's Meadow South. Is anyone here that wishes to speak to this?
No, Mayor.
Bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
No, first reading.
I'm sorry, jeez. Trying to get onto the budget. Ordinance 17-580, authorize public construction, third edition to Casey's Meadow South. Is anyone that'd like to speak to this?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. We have not changed this. We're now going to vote on this. We'll bring it back for a motion in a second.
No, this is
Oh,
first reading.
first reading.
First reading.
Okay. New resolution 17-581, approve general development plan for planned development of water filtration plant and clear wells at 425 Lakeshore Drive. Plan Commission recommends approval. Anyone like to speak to this?
No, Mayor.
Back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Would you please take the roll?
Peck.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Pansky.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Mayor Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
New resolution 17-582, approve special event Christine Ann Domestic Abuse Services, Inc., to utilize Menominee Park and city streets for the Race for the Light Walk run December 2nd, 2017. Anyone wanted to speak to this? Public?
No, Mayor.
Back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Councilman Peck?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the founder and director of this event, I will be, even though I have no financial ties to that, I will be excusing myself from consideration of this agenda item.
Thank you. Would you please take the roll?
Palmieri. Aye. Allison Osby.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Pansky.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Mayor Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 6-1 present.
Resolution 17-583, approve secondhand dealer license for Fabulous Finds. Is anyone registered to speak
No,
to
Mayor.
this? I'll bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilperson Palmieri.
Yes, as I have a business relationship with the applicant, I'll be voting present on this.
Okay, thank you. Would you please take the roll?
Peck.
Aye.
Palmieri.
Present.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Herman.
Aye.
Pansky.
Aye.
Krause.
Aye.
Mayor Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 6-1 present.
Next is Resolution 17-584, receive and file a petition for direct legislation to reduce the forfeiture for possession of marijuana to $25. Has anyone signed up to speak to this?
Yes, Mayor. Brian Hamill, 210 North Main Street.
Good evening. My name is Brian Hamill. I'm representing the petitioner in this matter. Obviously, I don't have to go through the history of this. I think you're all aware of where this has been. Petition was filed previously. There were some inefficiencies with signatures, and city attorney also filed a brief stating that they didn't think it was appropriate to repeal and amend an existing ordinance. They thought it was it failed based on legal reasons. So that petition, where over 3,500 signatures were gathered by local citizens, was denied. A new petition was started, and the petition was changed. It was changed to not repeal or amend any city ordinance. It was changed to add to the city ordinance. It was not in conflict with the current ordinance. Nothing would have to be repealed or replaced or amended within the city ordinance. Once again, over 3,600 signatures of citizens of Oshkosh were gathered, and all those requirements were met. I did see today that another memo was sent by the city attorney addressing the legality of the petition and direct legislation. This is a little different than most petitions. It basically is asking the council to allow for direct citizen legislation in this matter. Because of that, there are some restrictions, and the restrictions were mentioned to some degree in the city's memo. Respectfully, we disagree with the city's memo. We think that the legal issues are misstated. We think the factors that are involved are different from what is stated in the memo. I know it's difficult for the city council. You receive a memo from the city attorney. You understand it to be the law, but there are some disagreements in the law, obviously, and there's ways that laws can be interpreted. In the city's memo, they state that this new petition attempts to repeal and replace an existing ordinance. That's not the case. This is an addition to the city ordinance, and it doesn't attempt to repeal or replace anything. Nothing will have to be changed. And they also state that direct legislation like this cannot repeal or amend an existing ordinance. It's kind of true, but it's not quite on point. Case law in Wisconsin says that this type of action cannot compel a city council to repeal an existing ordinance or compel the council to pass a new ordinance. So it's a little bit different. In the memo, they're talking about you cannot appeal or amend. In this case law, it states this type of petition cannot require you as the council to make changes to that ordinance. This amendment, this petition does not make any changes to the existing ordinance and will not require you to make any changes to the ordinance. So it can exist without those changes. It can exist without being in conflict with what's currently available. What it does is it obviously creates a fine for the use of marijuana, and it changes or it brings about some penalties that are much less than they were before. You've seen the petitioners around town, gathering signatures and doing all this work to decriminalize this type of behavior in Oshkosh. Now, whether you like that or not, and whether you're behind that, it is the citizens speaking and putting their voice forward and asking that this be changed. And the reason this sort of direct legislation occurs is because the citizens should have some voice here and should be able to put forth some ideas about how laws should be put forth here. So the concerns are with the memo. Like I said, I know the council puts great weight on memos from the city attorney, but I think it should be known that there is another point of view out there, and I don't think the city memo is correct in what this would do. So where do we go from here? We've collected all these signatures, we've done all the work. There are some short time frames, which I know the council and our petition have to work with. I'd like to see the legal issues settled out. I mean, I would like to, answer questions, obviously, if you have them about that legal issues, but I think there's other options. We'd like it to pass now, but I'd love to hear any questions you have.
Yes, I have several. Mr. Hamill, with all due respect, you basically are saying that the city attorney is wrong.
Yeah.
Because you're saying, is now, there's the old argument that you get 3 different attorneys in a room and you ask them a question, you're going to get 3 different opinions. Why are you right and she's wrong?
Yeah, this happens 10 times a day in my line of work. You have other people trying to make arguments based on what they feel is right or wrong sometimes. You have people misreading statutes or misreading what's happening in certain cases, and you have direct conflicts of people who look at the law and say it could be this, it could be that.
Okay, so just if I may, so you're saying she misread the statutes, you're reading it correctly?
Yeah, and the case law out there.
No, just yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. You indicate that, and in your presentation, you're saying this doesn't change anything, but it changes the fine to $25. If it doesn't change anything, how can the fine then become $25?
It's a new ordinance. It doesn't require you to change anything. And that's what the case law, which I was about to mention, states, that as long as you're not required or compelled to change the ordinance, this type of thing can pass. So yes, it's going to be a new ordinance with a new fine, and it's going to be something separate from what's there. It's an addition.
Is marijuana still criminalized in the state of Wisconsin?
In some places, yes.
in some places.
Yeah, there are communities around here that have changed their ordinances like this.
No, 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 the question was, is marijuana, possession of marijuana, is it a criminal offense in the state of Wisconsin?
Not always, no. It depends on the amount, depends on the community you're in. I mean, I'm not.
Is marijuana legal?
Is it legal?
Yes.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Again, I'm not a expert on the legalities of marijuana in the state of Wisconsin.
But you're claiming to be an expert on
I'm not
other
claiming to be an
issues of the
expert
law.
in anything. I've never claimed to be an expert.
Well, so then you're saying that your opinion so then what you're presenting is your opinion saying that your reading of the statute trumps Ms. Lawrence's readings of the statute because apparently you are more learned in that than, no, I'm.
You find this amusing?
Yeah, I never said I was more learned than anyone. I said people can misread, people can misinterpret, people can interpret differently. There's lots of possibilities here. I didn't say I was more learned than anyone. I take offense to that.
But you said that you weren't an expert in the criminalization.
I never said I was an expert in anything.
I asked a question a short while ago if you knew it, and you said no, you weren't an expert in the criminal
aspects of marijuana.
Aspect of marijuana.
No, I would say that.
So then you're also not an expert in the reading of these statutes, would that be correct?
No, absolutely not. And this statute has nothing to do with marijuana. The statute we're talking about is with direct legislation. And in my interpretation, in her memo, she states the legality of it and how this is interpreted incorrectly. All due respect, I do that all the time. And when I'm looking at an issue, I put it in the best light that I can. I can read you from the case that it says compels you to make a change. In her memo to you, it just says amends or changes. That's a bit different. Because I think the legislation, I think why they did that is because they didn't want you to have to amend your ordinance. And that's, I think, the fine line here that we're talking about. You don't have to under this. And if this would get passed, there's no amendment required. And she said there is amendment required. I disagree with that. And I'd like, if I can hear what amendment or what would be required, I'd like to hear it.
Okay, well, you've answered my questions, and I will wait to then, when it comes on before us to.
Councilmember Palmieri.
Okay, I just want to ask a couple of questions here. Number one, we had in our folders when we sat down a packet that had some attachments and information from Mark Kelderman, but you indicated in your statements here tonight that you're representing the petitioners?
Yeah, Mark Kelderman and the petitioners. She's part of
Okay,
it, yeah.
so then, just out of curiosity, why would we have received a letter directly from Mr. Kelderman if you're representing them?
I'm representing tonight in this issue.
Just for this limited
Well, my
event?
representation is between he and
Okay,
I, but
just trying to clarify that. And then the second question I had is, so information that we've received is that the city of Oshkosh already has an ordinance regulating marijuana possession that is non-criminal in nature. So I was just wondering if Lawrence could share that, just to refresh our memory, or someone could tell us what that is, because it seems like what you're asking for, there already is that option, but whether or not law enforcement choose to use that option is dependent upon that situation. So I guess right now we're just looking at whether or not we're going to receive and file the petition tonight.
Right.
So my question is, if we already
to address it now or wait until it comes to
back
council?
to council.
Let's wait till it comes back. Yep, sorry.
Okay, I just have one comment. As I look at the resolution, it's pretty much supporting what Councilmember Palmieri said. It says, receive and file a petition. To me, that says we receive it, we file it, end of day. We're not here to do a legal debate. We're doing what is on the agenda. We're receiving it, we're filing it, we're going on to the next resolution. Also, do you all agree? Councilmember Pansky.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion to receive and file the petition with direction to staff to
You're
create.
actually still in the citizen
It's, oh, the
portion.
citizens are out of order yet.
Oh.
We're on public statements yet. We gotta wait till.
Thank you.
Mr. Hamill's done. There's probably some other people that want to speak on this behalf before we move it to council, so.
Then let's move on, shall we?
Anybody have any questions of Mr. Hamill? Otherwise, I'm sure, like I said, there's other people that would like to speak, so. Thank you.
Angie, who's next?
Connor Douglas Metz, 720 Cherry Street.
Thank you. I wasn't actually sure that my submission went through online. So, yeah, my name is Connor Douglas Metz. I'm 19 years old, and I'm not a college student yet, but I'm hoping to find a career in archaeology with specifics in shamanism and history. I live in the campus area, and as I'm sure you guys know, since all of you, or I'll assume all of you live in city limits, that every weekend hundreds of people go out drinking and, you know, partying and roam the streets of campus, you know, in between opening and closing of bar time. And every week there's new reports of violence, break-ins, burglaries, sexual assaults. And I'm sure the police officers and university employees could probably back me up on that because they release statements on it regularly. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I find a huge problem with the fact that in those same neighborhoods where this type of thing is happening, people who are using a plant like cannabis can have their doors kicked in, be branded as felons, lose the right to vote, and in some cases spend years in prison. That doesn't really happen anymore, but people still do go to prison for possession of marijuana. So what I mean to ask you is, even if you don't pass it this year, people are going to petition again next year and the year after that until you say you have no choice but to say yes, or your successors have no choice but to say yes. So I'm just asking you to consider the fact that people like me, even certain people on this council, and other people like me who are here for the same reason. I don't see any of us as criminals, and I don't see a logical reason why we should be treated as such. So that's all I have to say, so thank you. I would have said more, but like I said, I wasn't prepared for this, but thank you.
Angie, who's next?
Sandra Lynn Handel, 323 West 8th.
Hi, I'm Sandra Handel. I live at 323 West 8th Avenue. I helped to petition this year and last year to reduce the fine for a first-time simple possession of cannabis. During my time petitioning, I had the privilege of speaking with many residents in Oshkosh, the vast majority who support this petition. And while many were eager to sign, there were also many who were afraid to sign for fear of potential backlash to their businesses, because they were business owners, or because they were teachers, or because they were state employees. And they falsely believed that voicing their opinion in support of such a topic would be used against them and risk their employment or their reputation within the community. My point in telling you this is that there are so many more people that support this petition than just the people who signed. We had so many people tell us they would feel a lot more comfortable in a private vote versus putting their name on a public petition. So there are a lot of supporters out there. We also hear a lot of stories while we're out petitioning in the community. And one of them that really was a huge eye-opener for me, I spoke with a recovering heroin addict, and he told me how difficult it was to get into treatment and groups because they are oversaturated with people who are forced to go or court-ordered for cannabis. I think that we're taking life-saving treatments away from true addicts, people that really need it, when we charge people with something like possession of a small amount of cannabis. I know there's people that are going to say that there are consequences for decriminalization, and I think that one of the best known consequences to decriminalizing cannabis, which has strong scientific backing, being a relatively easy outcome, to measure is that the criminal justice system saves money and resources. And that's money and resources that can be used in the community to fight more serious crimes like the heroin epidemic that we face in this community. We also have an increased number of violent crimes in our city and break-ins, and I think that money and everything could be utilized better for that. I know there's people who also believe that reducing the fine will encourage the use of cannabis among our youth. And I would just like to point out that according to a study done by the American Academy of Pediatrics, it was found that the rate of kids who smoke marijuana does not change after their states or cities enacted decriminalization laws. I also believe that the cannabis possession arrests fuel mass incarceration and mass criminalization, not to mention institutionalized racism and economic inequality. Somebody who receives a possession ticket right now at $350 to $500 has to make the choice between paying their rent, buying groceries, or paying their fine. And I think that we can all agree that nobody should have to go hungry or face homelessness over a small amount of cannabis. I think it's pretty silly. I think, you know, people who end up with a second offense are now felons. They have a harder time finding and keeping employment, applying for school loans. They have a harder time getting out of the economic hole that will follow them around for a lifetime. I don't think anybody would agree that somebody who's 18 that is now a felon but was otherwise a law-abiding citizen should spend the rest of their life suffering for that. I guess in my conclusion and final statements here, I really believe there's an emerging public, political, and scientific consensus that otherwise law-abiding people should not be at risk for unemployment, homelessness, or arrest simply for using or possessing cannabis. So I urge the council to support the petition, and thank you for your time.
One question, quick one. You speak about the $350 fine. Someone would have to make a decision between paying their rent or paying their fine. What's the cost of marijuana to initially possess it?
You know, and that would vary between whoever. You know, if somebody was maybe even given some, if it's a small amount, if you're talking a gram, and they're gonna still receive a $350 to $500 fine for that.
What is the cost of marijuana?
It could be $20. So, I mean, we're not talking about people who are buying $500, $600 worth of marijuana. We're talking about people who have small-time possession of 25 grams or less. And again, a friend could have given it to them. They could have spent $20 on it. It could have been free. We're not talking about large amounts of money spent on it. When you're busting people for under 25 grams worth of marijuana, and then with ridiculous fines like this, a $500 fine, I mean, there's people who aren't able to pay their rent.
Should we be charging someone a $150 fine for jaywalking?
I'm sorry?
Should we be charging someone a $150 fine for jaywalking? That's what it currently is.
So, but I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
Well, there's probably a simple financial solution. Don't use it, and don't be dumb enough to get caught if you do use it. That solves the whole issue of not paying rent, buying groceries, everything else.
But the fact of the matter, some people do get busted.
We all have
It does
choices, and there are consequences to the wrong choice.
And that's why we're asking the council to take a look at our petitions and the city and the people that signed it.
Angie, who's next?
Cindy Lou Kerwin, 130 Stony Beach Road.
Hello, I'm Cindy Lou. I'm just here to speak about the petition. This is the second year we've been doing this, and my reasons for doing this is medical. Right now, my partner has had lung cancer. Last year, they took out part of his lung. This year, he's doing radiation, same lung cancer. And it just makes me angry that all of these other states that are right next to us, they can get all this medicine. And they're not gonna be thrown in jail and have a felony or anything. I mean, it's ridiculous. And they know it's proven fact that they can be healed. I I want this to happen. So do a lot of other people. I'm not looking at something like you're drinking and that's bad, or you're smoking, that's bad. I'm not looking at that aspect. I'm looking at the medical. It's not just cancer, and they already know it's for a lot of different things. Seizures, asthma, the list goes on, but my reasons for this is because my father died of lung cancer. My mother has cancer, had it twice. Removed her breast, my cousin, my brother. That's my reason. And there's so many people that I talk to, and they all want to tell you their stories. It's not just that many people in Oshkosh that want that. And we're just looking at all these other states like, what's wrong with us? Why can't we get it together? So much money is made off of this product. Whether anybody who's going to do it and they're going to be fined for it, they're still going to do it. Just like drinking, prohibition, they're still going to do it. I'm 58. I remember kids doing this in middle school. I didn't. But I know they had it way back then. It's not going to go away. Well, why can't our community and our state get it together so we could profit from this? Clothing, medicine, concrete, hempcrete. I mean, there's so much. It's a plant. It's ridiculous. And when you talk about all the pharmaceuticals, all the medicine that they give you, all the radiation, all the pills. My honey's father's dying of cancer. There's nothing they can do. Yes, there is. Why can't our people get this medicine? Thank you.
Angie, who's next?
Mark Kelderman, West 2457 Lemira Drive, Brownsville.
Thank you. I'm an organizer and a spokesperson for the petition. As you know, I was involved with this last year also, and we're pleased that we were successful in meeting at least one part of the two-part requirement for petitions for direct legislation, and that is meeting the 15% of the voter population endorsed our petition. The second part of that petition is subject to interpretation by the courts. Whether Lynn Lawrenson has the opinion that what we did was illegal or not, that interpretation hasn't been made by a court of law yet. And our goal tonight was to try to work with the council, not against the council. But when I hear Mr. Cummins say mean things about people that are using marijuana, I would invite him to come down to perhaps the farmer's market and stand with me and talk to the hospice nurses from here in town, or talk to the nurses from the hospital working with dying patients who are reducing their opiate use by using cannabis, or people who, like myself, were cancer survivors and couldn't take any more drugs that would keep me from throwing up and getting sick. So I used cannabis successfully. And many of the people in this room that will speak for us don't use. And our poor attorney doesn't use. He's a non-smoker himself. But we sent you a packet of materials from some of the statements that were made at the end of the meeting last year that we found egregious and very wrong. Marijuana is not a gateway drug. Brad Schimmel, the Attorney General from Wisconsin, has launched and conducted a public service campaign to fight opiate abuse, and he says that 80% of the people in this state that are treated for opiate abuse report that their gateway drug was someone else's opiate that they took out of a medicine cabinet. It wasn't marijuana. We know from states that have legalized, teen use does not increase, and we know from states that have legal marijuana, opiate use decreases. We're surrounded. We have Minnesota, we have Iowa, we have Illinois, we have Michigan, we have Canada. All have some form of medical marijuana. Mr. Pesh, you ask, is this illegal? No, it's not. 29 states have made a decision that they're willing to risk intervention from the federal government, and they assert the state's right that they have enacted their own laws and figure it's a states' right issue, and they're prepared to go to bat for that. So when you say, is it illegal? Well, it's kind of like one person may have one opinion, another person may have another opinion. And until a court steps in and intervenes, it's anybody's guess. This petition for direct legislation is protected by special election law. And we're here to protect the 4,500 people that signed it this year and the 4,500 people that signed it last year. We take that responsibility very seriously. And Mr. Pesh, maybe only 3,700 of those were determined to be valid.
Excuse me, sir.
I'm sorry.
My last name is pronounced Peck. Please respect me enough to get that correct. It
That
has
was
been
not
mentioned-
meant out of disrespect.
It was mentioned several times this evening. Thank you.
Peck. No comment. So the council can do whatever they choose to do. And
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor? Yes. I have thick skin. I'm hoping I'm not reading anything into your comment.
may I
just
have the
a
rest of my
moment ago,
time, please?
But I hope that there wasn't.
I think you're just trying to entice or aggravate a situation that's not occurring. So if I would just bear with me for a minute, and I'll finish my comment, and the next speaker can have their time. I am saying that we are here to defend rigorously the 4,500 people that have signed this petition. Their names are on there. No comment. I'm just asking you to work with us as opposed to against us. You know, Lynn has 30 days, I believe, to file this petition. We have time. There's another council meeting. You could shelve this. Brian could work with Lynn. We could look at other options. You could repeal your existing ordinance, accept this one. You could write your own ordinance. There are possibilities that don't have to result in litigation. But I'm here to tell you, we've worked very hard for 2 years, as have many of people, and we're going to represent these petitions.
Please wrap up, please.
Mr. Mayor, if I could ask a follow-up question of the gentleman, please.
Councilman Palmieri.
Just real quick, Mr. Keldman, I guess I just want to acknowledge the fact that the tone has changed more positively since the last time the group was here last year, and I appreciate that. I think this is kind of a heated issue, but I do want to ask you a real particular question here. Perhaps I missed something, but in the math that I see here from the clerk, the signatures that were certified, that the number was deficient, but there were a number that were correctable. So the total number that we have is 3,532, but needed 3,643.
No.
So I believe that you were given like 10 days.
No.
You were given.
I can answer. We sent out a email on, I think it was on Monday, wasn't it?
The revision.
With the revised numbers. They did correct a number of the pages. There were 63 pages that had correctable concerns, so 246 signatures were corrected, bringing the total to 3,778 signatures, which was a sufficient amount.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Palmieri.
Sean
Angel?
Helderman, West 2457, Lamira Drive, Brownsville.
They stole my thunder in my arguments. A lot of people work very hard to get these signatures, most of them, pretty much everyone but my husband and I, residents of your city. To speak to Sandra's point, there were a lot of people that didn't sign, and despite that fact, we were still able to get 3,700 signatures again. The stories that you hear when you're talking to these people, and I have nothing to gain from this, I don't smoke, okay, just throw that out there, but the stories you hear from people when you're doing this are really, really heartbreaking. In a 5-minute period, I talked to a mother who signed it because she wanted access to cannabis for her child who had epilepsy. The next person we spoke with was an elderly resident who takes it to reduce his Parkinson's symptoms. This is supported throughout your community. It helps people. To your point, is it illegal in the state? Yes, currently it is. That can be changed. We're not asking you guys to change or make anything illegal that's legal. We're asking you to make the fine more representative of what the actual crime is, being $25. We did talk to people who were fined, who did have to make a choice between feeding their family or paying the fine. And so we're just asking you to make that accommodation for your residents. Thank you. But I'm not leaving it.
Angela?
Erin Wojciechowski was registered, 720 Cherry Street. He is not here tonight. She does have something from him, if you're willing to hear it.
Okay, so this is on behalf of Erin Wojciechowski, who couldn't make it tonight. My name is Erin Wojciechowski. I'm a resident of Oshkosh, a student at UW Oshkosh, and elected representative to the Winnebago County Board. I am writing this statement in support of item number 29. I support fully legalizing and decriminalizing marijuana. I believe this is a good step in that direction. Over the last few years, public opinion on marijuana reform has been unpopular. That's especially obvious at the state level and local governments across the county. As other states begin to move towards marijuana reform, we too have the opportunity to become a leader and send a strong message to other local governments in Wisconsin and the state legislature as well. In Winnebago County, 490 were arrested for marijuana possession in 2016, and more specifically, 238 in Oshkosh, according to data provided by the Wisconsin Department of Justice. Beginning these talks and moving in these directions could prove to have positive effects for our law enforcement, our overcrowded jails, our taxpayers, and many more. Regardless of the petitioning process, I think the fact that so many have signed onto this petition more than once shows that we are serious about making changes in our community and in this state. You have the power to make this a reality regardless of the petition. I hope that you recognize all the hard work done by these individuals, and I strongly urge you to consider making this a reality in Oshkosh. Thank you.
Angie?
No one else is registered.
I'll bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Chief Smith, would you like to make some comments from your experience in the community?
Well, as you know, currently we have an ordinance in place that is available to officers to use in simple possession cases. We already have that in place. We already use this ordinance, and officers have the discretion to charge an individual with this ordinance violation or refer them to the DA's office for criminal charges. This is based upon the circumstances of the given case. The only officers that can enforce the city ordinance for the city of Oshkosh is Oshkosh police officers. UWO police officers for all offenses that occur on campus or that they encounter near the campus for criminal charges. They can't enforce the city ordinance. They do not have the option of charging a person with any ordinance violation. So any university student that is stopped, encountered by a UWO police officer, they don't have the ability to have an ordinance. In 2016, OPD wrote approximately 122 ordinance violations for possession of THCs. And so far in 2017, we wrote 127 ordinance violations. In 2016, we referred 124 persons criminally. And so far this year, we referred 87 persons for criminal charges here in the city. The issue of possession of marijuana is a larger issue than simply a person possessing 25 grams or less. The issue that concerns me more than possession is the distribution of narcotics. And that's what's not being discussed. You all know that this has been a focus here at OPD. We are actively pursuing those who are dealing drugs in our community. Our Vice and Narcotics Unit alone, through October, has conducted over 150 drug investigations. Whether possession of marijuana is an ordinance violation or a criminal offense, any form of distribution of narcotics is a criminal act and a felony. With this comes the other issues associated with illegal drug trafficking, the crimes associated such as robberies, assaults, thefts, and burglaries. As a matter of fact, one of the last robberies that we had here in our city was a marijuana deal on that. this issue should be settled, I believe, at either the state or the federal level. Thank you.
Councilmember Allison Osby.
Thank you. Actually, it's just a simple question or something that I had noted both last year and this year. Is my curiosity is that the petitioner is from actually out of the city of Oshkosh. So how did it come to be then that Mr. Kellerman, or is it something that they do in various communities as kind of a way to state their case?
Actually, probably 95% of our petitioners check signatures
Now you broke it.
No, I understand that, but what I'm curious about is out of the 90%, why didn't they initiate the petition? Why is it taking somebody from out of there?
Mr. Hammond from here, a graduate from UW Oshkosh, started the petition last year. He has a young child, wife, and works several jobs in the cumbersome for him. So some of us who were elderly or retired or able to donate some time, stepped in and took the reins.
Okay, I was curious.
Just one comment. My wife has been an alcohol and drug counselor at a local hospital for 30 years. And when she began 30 years ago, it was primarily alcohol abuse. It has totally swung to drug abuse with a little bit of alcohol. In some cases, there's addiction both ways. She said that the marijuana that was available some decades ago is totally different than what is available now. She said it leads to schizophrenia. What's going on? Are you a counselor, pal? It leads to schizophrenia. There's a lot of problems. What's going on in Colorado now? Bottom line, it's illegal, period. And all the sob stories about we can't pay rent, we can't buy food. We have decisions in life, and if that is a consequence of a bad decision, then there's not a whole lot that I really can do. We have a law in this state. If you want to change the law, drive down to Madison and talk to your legislatures. Councilman Peck.
Thank you. I mean, I do appreciate the work that people have done for getting signatures. I mean, those of us on this council have to go out and knock on doors and get signatures, and I know how difficult that is. That said, there are, we'll call it 3,700 valid signatures, and I will grant that some people don't want to sign because of, their own personal issues. But there's, Angie, what are the total electors and basically people of voting age that would be able to select to sign this in the city?
The voting age, I wouldn't be able to tell you off the top of my head.
But
Sorry.
isn't there a percentage that it has to be?
15% was what.
15%,
yep.
So then that would be, we said 3,700. So that's
3,643 would be the 15% number. I don't have a calculator handy.
So if 10%, it would be somewhere around, let's say, just 25,000 people or whatever of electors. So granted, it's a fair number of signatures, but there's also many people in the city that didn't sign. And there were probably people that were approached that didn't sign because of the fact they don't want to change this. There is an ordinance on the books. Ms. Lawrence, and you've said that basically this, even if this goes to a vote as a referendum, it doesn't affect what the city, because this referendum can't overwrite a current ordinance, and that ordinance is defined.
Direct legislation cannot repeal an existing ordinance, and we do have an existing ordinance for first offense, possession of marijuana, and a forfeiture amount for that. So you could send it to a referendum. It would be advisory, and the council would determine then what to do with it. The council, basically, it's a policy decision for the council. You can do what they requested, reduce the forfeiture to $25. You can reduce it to some other amount, or you could leave it at it as it currently exists. Direct legislation is something that's appropriate for when the legislative body refuses to act. Once you've acted in an area, then the proper way to change that is to have the council go back and you control that ordinance. So in this case, they are seeking to change the existing ordinance because there is an existing ordinance and there is an existing penalty.
What is, I indicated jaywalking. I think the forfeiture on that is 100.
It's been a while since I actually prosecuted, so I don't
Chief
have
Smith,
a good recollection
Chief
of all
Smith,
of
do
them
you know?
off the top
Would you
of my
happen
head.
to know what the forfeiture for an open intoxicant is?
I can tell you, most of our ordinances, our kind of default amount is $75 plus costs, which is $232.
All right.
And then there are certain things that are higher and, you know.
Okay. What I would like to do is, and I'll need some help here, Ms. Lawrence, and what I would like to do is suggest is if you could get is to basically review what the the forfeiture is for open intoxicants and come back to the council with what that number is, that dollar figure, and I would consider, I may consider changing the you know, basically making the forfeiture for possession of marijuana similar to that of an open intoxicant. I'm just throwing this on, I'm just asking is what...
Heck, you know that alcohol is legal though, right? I have my button. My
Wait to be called.
Yes, I understand that. But in the gesture of trying to work as a partnership, I'd be willing to explore that. I think to the point of the gentlelady, yes, alcohol is legal. Marijuana is not legal. And so therefore, I find it would be very difficult to justify making something a forfeiture for something that's illegal less than the forfeiture for something that, while it's legal to have it, it's just illegal to have it as an open intoxicant. So, all right, those were a couple of questions and that I wanted to get out there right now, so I will yield.
Councilmember Palmieri.
So I go back to, since what we have on the agenda tonight is receive and file a petition for just to receive and file the petition, if we could potentially discuss having this placed on a future agenda and going ahead with the receipt and filing of the petition. The council's.
Councilmember Pansky.
Okay. As I said last year, I don't know why this is so loud, it must be recognized that 3,778 people that live in this city sign this document. The hours and the days and the weeks and the months that you guys put into this is amazing, so thank you. The fact that we're not up here listening to these people really bothers me. It doesn't matter if you go home and do this or not, or whatever your deal is, You should never, ever, ever look down on somebody because they had a joint in the car or whatever the situation was. That is not our place to tell people what they can and cannot do in their homes, in their vehicles, whatever it may be. That's law enforcement's place. That's not our place. Our place here is to recognize that all of these people in this city want this changed. The least we could do is listen to them, whether we agree with them or not. If you pay attention to anything in the state of Wisconsin, or even on the federal level at this point, this issue of recreational and medicinal cannabis use is changing. We're not all just stoners sitting around and watching TV and eating Doritos. We're elected officials. We're doctors. We're teachers. We're parents. We're students. We're all sorts of people. We are in treatment. We are recovering. We are fighting cancer. I mean, this is changing. And we are so far behind that the residents of our city are saying, wake up! They're right in front of us. Almost 4,000 of them are right in front of us. And we're gonna sit here and nitpick over choices that they make? Mr. Mayor, I made a choice. I made a choice. I was given a free joint, and I had it in my car. And now I'm facing 6 months in jail and a fine of $1,000. You don't think that that's ridiculous at any level?
You broke the law.
To that extent? This is putting a burden on people. You can go to your bar and you can drink all you want, and that no one's gonna say any different. There are other people not like you that live in this city that realize that this is a problem. We can address this and make it better for everybody. They are asking us to listen, not correct names. I know, as disrespectful as that is, let them speak. Let's listen. Put it on the ballot. Give them a voice. And if you have concerns about marijuana use, look into it. Do some research. Look at the facts. Talk to people. Have you talked to anybody on the petitions about why they support it? Has anybody reached out to any petitioner? Educate yourselves, guys.
Councilmember Palmieri.
Again, I'm going to say this for the last time. Can we please take this back to what's on the agenda for tonight, which is whether or not we're going to receive and file the petition? We received this packet just tonight, right before the meeting. So if council wishes to take it beyond what is currently on the agenda, we can discuss whether or not that would be on the agenda, a future agenda. But if we could just come back to 17,584 that's in front of us, rather than getting into all of these the weeds. Yes, thank you.
Councilmember Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Ms. Palmieri that we'll just take a look at this, but I do have to respond. We do listen. This council does listen to people. Nobody's saying we aren't listening to them. We did sit here and we listened. And we asked questions. There's also other people out there that we also listen to. And I do educate myself. Have I reached out to any of the people on these petitions? No, I have not at this point. I have talked with Mr. Kelderman. Excuse me? And to have us question that, to basically that say we're not listening is false. We do listen. And it's not just the people it's not just the people on this side that you listen to, it's the people on the other side. And that just because you don't hear from someone doesn't mean there's a concern. You know, the theatrics are great, but we are simply going to vote on receiving these things, this petition, and that is listening to them. And as I indicated, I am open to exploring alternatives. But when it's said that we are not, that we're not interested in that, it just, I should, you know, it's not necessarily taking it personally, but it is, it does kind of hit at the center of you. So I would say let's go, I would, with that, I would call the question and to get back to 17,584.
Councilmember Allison Osby.
Thanks. I actually was just gonna echo, Ms. Palmieri, because we do have a $74 million operating budget that needs our attention, as well as an $11.4 million CIP budget. And I think there's a time and a place to air our dirty laundry. I'm not necessarily sure that tonight's probably an appropriate place to do that. So I think it's probably best that we move forward with what's on the agenda and vote respectively.
Councilmember Pansky.
Okay. Well, with that, then I would like to make a motion to receive and file the petition with direction to staff to prepare an advisory referendum question regarding reducing the forfeiture for first offense marijuana possession.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Isn't that what the
No,
584?
we're just receiving and filing.
Mm-hmm.
With direction to staff to prepare an advisory referendum.
If there's no count,
And it was.
Clear,
right.
yeah.
That's just
You have to-
direction
you have
to
to-
staff, and then it'll come back.
Yeah, and there was a second.
Okay.
So this would, it would
File
receive and
petition.
file, and then in addition, Councilmember Pansky is asking that staff be directed to prepare an advisory referendum.
And what
that
does that
is in
mean to
the
the council and the public?
Information.
An advisory referendum.
Councilmember
To reduce the
Palmieri.
forfeiture for first offense possession of marijuana. Do you need that whole thing, or no?
No, I was giving you the opportunity to answer the question.
What, did I miss it?
Sorry.
Oh.
Is
So I guess my question is when you say advisory to referendum, what exactly does that mean? Because I don't know what.
That now staff will prepare what she can do legally to get this into the hands.
We would prepare a question to place on the spring ballot.
To
So,
put it into the hands of the voters
As an advisor.
as an advisory.
think I
and it would
have-
come back to us.
I think I have the
Still.
floor here, so.
Yes, you do.
I'm gonna take advantage of that. And I'm just gonna say, I'm not gonna support that amendment. What I would support is direction to staff to place this on the agenda, on a future agenda, for further discussion with that as an option for discussion. So I would move to receive and file the petition with direction to staff to place this on a
We have to
future
vote on the
agenda.
first one.
yeah, we already have.
Vote it down and then bring it back.
Or we can
vote it up,
withdraw.
or move forward.
Can I just ask a
We could
question?
withdraw.
Push your buzzer.
What's the deadline to be able to get it on a referendum for like April? Do we have plenty of time to get that done?
I don't know.
I was under the understanding we don't have the time, but
even
An advisory
Why?
referendum,
Yeah,
we
just
will
to
get
find
back
out
to
the
you,
public
but
opinion.
I believe we have the time to do it, because it's
Okay.
advisory, it's what the council directs it to do. So I would think that anything before the deadline that you yourselves have for running for council would be pretty comparable. But
I don't know.
with it, yeah, but we don't have the, but normally advisory referendum, if you're getting them done before the end of the year, generally you're okay. We'll confirm that, but that's that's my understanding. We don't deal with this every day, by the way.
A clarification, advisory means that the council does not have to do it.
Correct.
It's like the plan commission we recommend, but we don't have to take the plan commission's recommendation either.
Correct.
Okay. Councilman Peck.
I'd have a point of order. All right, 17,584, receive and file a petition for direct legislation to reduce the forfeiture for possession of marijuana to $25. That was moved and seconded, correct?
Yes.
So, what is Ms. Pansky, are you offering an amendment? Because because if you would need to amend, and I'm not trying to, get all technical on everything, but the agenda item was moved and seconded. And so if any changes are going to be made to that has to, 17,584 has to have an amendment, a second, public comment, a vote on the amendment.
I think it's probably a matter of more form over substance. I think she is moving to amend it to include the direction to staff to include the advisory referendum question, if I'm correct.
Member Pansky?
Okay, but we can direct you at any time to do this. If we want a referendum or if we want an adoptable ordinance from the city attorney's office.
Correct. I mean, you do have several other options. You could, we could take a look at the existing ordinances. We actually had taken, the chief and I had taken a look at what some other cities had for forfeitures for marijuana when this came up last year, I believe it was. And we can, we can provide that information to you. If someone wanted to sponsor an ordinance, any one of the council members could sponsor an ordinance. There are a number of different options for you to take to address this issue if you want to take it, or just simply placing it on a future council agenda as a discussion item as well.
Councilmember Pansky.
I guess my question then is to Councilmember Palmieri is, what were you thinking were you going to put a particular date on there? I'm just concerned that if we don't hit the end of the year mark, and we are looking at a potential advisory referendum, that we're gonna miss that if we just let it go.
I didn't have a specific date in mind, but I was thinking after the first of the year, because we only have one meeting left in this calendar year. And really it was out of courtesy to everyone here, because nobody was prepared to have this full conversation tonight. It was only supposed to be about whether or not to accept the petition or not. There just was not enough prep time to really have this full discussion. But I would like to see that placed on a future agenda so we can move on.
I would agree. City Attorney?
The city clerk is apparently at home watching. We have until mid-January to adopt the wording for an advisory referendum.
So then
I'll withdraw my motion if you withdraw your second.
Need the consent.
I'll withdraw that.
And I'll make a motion to approve, or to receive and file the petition for direct legislation to reduce the forfeiture for possession of marijuana to $25.
That's already on the floor.
That's already on the floor.
I already have a motion in a
But
second.
that's it, nothing else.
See, well, we have that motion on the floor already, don't we?
No, it was
In a
never
second?
seconded, was it?
Yes, it was.
It was.
Because
I
that's,
seconded.
we're allowed to discuss it.
Yeah, I seconded.
If there's no further discussion,
Okay.
hit it.
Peck,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye?
Herman,
Aye.
Pansky.
Please just clarify what I am voting on, the whole thing, please.
What's on the agenda?
The
Resolution
resolution
as
as
presented.
it's
Just
presented.
My understanding was that Councilmember Palmieri added the language to
No.
put this. No, not that part. So just this.
Right.
Thank you. Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Mayor Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
Before we get to the budget.
Now, we have budget starting, should we take about a 5-minute break or so?
Sounds good.
5, 10 minutes, whatever.
5 or 10.
It'll wind up being 10 anyways.
The The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly.
Back to the council agenda. We're at resolution 17-585, which is adopt 2018 city budget. Angie, did anyone from the public?
No, Mayor.
Okay, bring it back to the council for a motion and a second.
So moved.
And discussion.
You know, this is the biggest, the biggest, this is the biggest item that the city considers every year. And, you know, and this is, Ms. Pansky, this is not a shot at you, okay? Please don't, you know, it's often said the council doesn't listen to our constituents. This is the biggest item that we consider every year, and as the Assistant Deputy City Clerk said, there's nobody that signed up to speak to this. But I got a feeling we're gonna get a lot of speaking to us after the fact. And I do respect everyone that they have, they're busy and everything, but this did go through many workshops. I know I missed a few personally, but I gotta tell you, thank you, OCMS. Made for some wonderful late night viewing. But it's just interesting that, you know, that we need people to participate in our government, and that they need to give us the direction as we consider these things, so.
Deputy Mayor Herman.
Thank you, Mayor. Just kind of echoing Councilmember Peck's comments, you know, we had 6 workshops. We worked through a lot of issues. We got a lot of great reports from city staff on where we're getting support from the state, where we were not getting support from the state. I think our staff every year gets better and better at putting together the budget. So I think a lot of the decisions have been pre-made, where in previous years, and I'm being the longest term member of the council, this is my 4th budget, no, my 8th budget technically, 4th term, so 8th budget. It just keeps getting better and better, but I understand the concerns of our citizens and concerns, as the one gentleman said in citizen statements tonight. You know, water rates are going up, other things are going up, the tax rate's gonna go up. But one thing that I've always stood for and I will always stand for is making sure that our citizens are safe and secure in this city. And that requires police officers, firefighters, ambulance, and city services. Those are the things that we have to have in this city to make this city run. You know, we've all been following this fall with the events with the arena and changes there. All the issues with Oshkosh Corp that we had to work on. Staff worked extra hours and through the budgets. So I just want to give staff kudos for doing a great job. They came in with what the city manager was looking for them. We made some additional changes that added to increase the levy, but we stayed in the restraints, which is important, so we get that. And I think even though it's going to go up 4.31%, we're getting pretty good bang for a buck. And I think that we've done our work, and our staff has done their work. And yeah, I don't, you know, like to see it go up either, but there's no way we could have come in with a 0% increase. There's no way we could continue to move the city forward without making some of these tougher decisions. And so I'll be supporting all the amendments that we had put out here to approve in the budget.
Thank you. I'd like to echo what both of my colleagues on my right and left have said. This is our eighth budget, and from when we started X years ago to now, the process gets easier and easier and easier. And I think one of the things I like the best is, you know, dollars, yes, there are dollars involved, but we've gone to a system where staff really tells us their accomplishments and what they plan to accomplish in the coming year with the dollars in the budget. So I think it's more important to see how the city is moving forward with those dollars. And because we're a service business, I mean, we're not like a manufacturer when times get slow that you can cut. We can't really cut anywhere. We have to continue with police, with fire, plowing snow, clean water, everything that the city does, but it is a service business. And I think, well, since Steve and I have been at this, and then Tom and Deb followed us and the rest of you, I think we've seen dramatic changes in how the city delivers their services, how the city, all those services are perceived by the public. We've been, a lot of us have gone to a lot of different conferences, and we keep hearing from our colleagues in other cities what's going on in Oshkosh. It is a city of remarkable change, and that change really has occurred over the last 8 to 10 years. And anywhere we go, or I go, I guess,
Where we go?
we go, it's, what are you guys doing there? I got a phone call the other day from a reporter from the Racine Journal-Times about how did Oshkosh get the D-League team, the Wisconsin Herd? And I said, it was all collaboration. Everyone came together in the city to really woo what is now the Wisconsin Herd to the city of Oshkosh to get the arena built. I think that same attitude of collaboration and teamwork is evident in the board of directors of Oshkosh Corp. Unanimously picking Oshkosh for the new global headquarters. So our level of service, I think, keeps increasing. The dollars don't increase that much. I think both my colleagues mentioned that we are constantly getting less and less from Madison or Washington, and we're asking really staff to do more with almost the same human resources that they had 6, 7, 8 years ago. So I think, everyone in the room and in the public should pat themselves in the back on the tremendous job that is being done by the city of Oshkosh, our staff. So with that, I will also support the budget. With that, Councilmember Palmieri.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. I feel like the budget piece is the most important function that a council member partakes in, and many hours, as have been suggested, go into it on the part of staff, and we get to kind of show up and I guess receive the information and then go home and digest it. And sometimes that digestion is I would have to disagree with you, Mayor. I don't find it very easy at all. I find it very difficult. But I will say what I'm really impressed with is the requests that were made to improve the story, the presentation of the budget materials so that it is more digestible. And I would certainly encourage our residents in the city who they choose how they spend their time to engage with City Hall, whether it be something regarding transportation and student busing to, bike and pedestrian and those kinds of things. But as other council members have stated, what we don't often get much participation from is during the budget process. And many hours were spent this past year by people in the community on a variety of issues, but it could be even further improved by more participation, being that this is a very significant function of this council, and the staff does put a lot of time and effort into it. I guess I'm most excited about the ties to the strategic plan that are referenced, because it's fine for us to have a strategic plan, but when it comes down to it, where are we spending our money and where are we spending our time? So I appreciate that improvement, and I just want to conclude by saying that I look forward to even greater improvements with the new automation and software. Hopefully that will make us a little more lean and efficient in our processes. But thank you for those improvements and everybody that put the hard work into that.
There were no other lights lit up on my panel, so I will ask for the roll.
Just one formality question. Do we, with these amendments, do we have to approve them, or are they part of the budget now?
Ms. Larson is on the ball. Let me tell you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, in the second last paragraph, the be it resolved on Resolution 17-585 with the adjustments as listed in the attached Exhibit A.
Okay.
So that is, it's incorporated in there, so there's no
Just want to make sure, because in the past,
amendments.
we've had to add those types of things at the end but I
Yep,
must
Ms.
have,
Larson was on the
looking at the
ball.
paperwork, went over the top of that one, so great. That makes it easy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's also that same answer for the CIP as well. So you'll be, if you make some adjustments to that, the adjustments that are on that other sheet that you have are also there. So you're just working off of that exhibit. We'll get there in a moment.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I think.
All right.
Please take the roll.
Heck,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Pansky,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Mayor Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
Next resolution is 17-586, approve 2017 tax levy. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Deputy Mayor Herman.
Mr. Rolfe, could you just explain for the citizens that are out there listening and the media that's here, what the levy increase is and just how that's going to affect their tax bill a little bit, or Ms. Larson, whoever can do that?
You want to do it? You want to go to, yeah, that, the attachment.
So where we are at for a adopted levy is $37,861,700. That will equate to a 4.31% increase over prior year and a mill rate of $10.55. Overall, for the city, that is a increase of $1,564,000 over the prior year.
So an average home, $100,000 home would see about an $18, $20 increase. Is that roughly where we're at?
When you bring together all of the taxing jurisdictions, including the city, homeowners will actually see a decrease in their tax bill this year.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Assuming their property values are consistent.
If there's no further discussion based on that very good news, I think it's time to take the roll.
Heck,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Pansky,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Mayor Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
Next is Resolution 17-587, adopt 2017 tax rates. Need a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? I see no one wishing to ask any questions. Would you please take?
Mr. Mayor, we've got to correct something. The levies need to reflect the levy that Ms. Larson identified in answering the question is not reflected in 586 or 587. So if you could just give us a moment to, if council's going to need to reconsider 586, I apologize for
All
that.
right, well, so then I would move to reconsider 17-586.
Second.
Second. Discussion? Please take the roll.
Peck,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Pansky,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Mayor Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
Mr. Mayor, we're distributing the revised 586. This reflects what council did approve in Exhibit A with the budget. What I would draw to your attention is at the bottom of the first page of 586. Excuse me. Is it the bottom of 586? The number is $26,695,100 for operations and $11,166,600. The number for operations is increased over what was published originally, and that's the difference. The total is now $37,861,700, as Ms. Larson said. The previous version of 586 that was in the agenda was $37,719,900. And we'll need a similar update for 587, the next item, and you'll get that. So staff recommends that you adopt the revised number that's been presented just presented to you.
All right, so then I would move the revised 17-586. which ties to what was approved in 585.
Second.
So that's a net increase of how much from the, what was printed?
That's the number that we, when she answered your question, that's when we
Okay.
realized that we didn't have that number in there.
All right,
So do we have a second?
yeah.
Yeah.
Second.
Yeah, you
Take the roll.
seconded.
I was looking for a second.
Oh,
We good? Okay.
Yeah, we're,
Pat
aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby. Aye. Herman,
aye.
Pansky,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Mayor Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
And then similarly, Mr. Mayor, for 587, we're passing out a revised resolution. This reflects what was in your Exhibit A in the budget. And that takes the city tax rate to 10.558, which is an increase of 0.214, and the overall rate of 25.074 after the state credit. Staff recommends you adopt the revised resolution that's in front of you.
We need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Deputy Mayor Herman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to point out to the citizens why there's a change in the tax rates and things. We've made some adjustments, there are amendments to the original budget, and I just want to bring them up. We are adding we're moving some ICI costs, premium holiday pay thing. Capital project fund, we're restoring $65,300 into there. We're cutting some miscellaneous contract services in the city attorney's office. Mr. Roloff needed an increase in his conference training. We are adding 1 police officer to the police department. We are adding 1 firefighter and a lieutenant instructor to the fire department. And we are adding an HR generalist, which the Northwestern did a nice story. I think it was the Northwestern did a story, or I'm sorry, I think it was
Independent.
Oshkosh Independent, I'm sorry, did the story on adding that position and the need for that. So that are the amendment changes that are affecting the tax rate. So as I said earlier, my strong support for police, fire, and ambulance service and public works is what I believe is the strongest thing we can do. So that added some changes to the budget. Thank you, Mayor.
Would you please take the roll?
Heck,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
Allison Osby.
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Pansky,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Mayor Cummings.
Aye.
Carried 7.
There's nothing under council discussion. Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No,
Got it.
capital improvement.
Resolution 17-588, approved 2018 capital improvement program.
I would move 17588.
Second.
Discussion. Deputy Mayor Herman.
I would like to make an amendment to the, actually the 2018 capital improvement adjustments dealing with the Oshkosh Corporation infrastructure. I would like to remove $322,000 out of the revolving loan fund, put it back into take that 322 and put it back in the revolving loan fund. So it'd be $1 million coming out of the revolving loan fund, and add it to the geo borrowing. Since we are getting such good rates for borrowing, I think it's appropriate to move that money out of there. As we heard last night at the GOE DC event, it's very important to have that revolving loan fund, and I think depreciating that loan fund too low hinders our future development here in the city to attract businesses. And I know it's a small amount, $322,000, but I'm sure that they would appreciate that.
Councilman
Can I?
Allison Osby?
I need a second. I'll defer to you on a second.
Sure. So I actually am in agreement with Counselor Herman. However, the dollar amount I had in mind was actually $422,000. Would you consider that, Councilman Herman? Deputy Mayor Herman?
Sure. That's fine.
Okay.
I'll rescind my
You can do a friendly amendment.
Friendly amendment.
I
adjustment.
always heard
We don't
friendly.
I thought we were doing
friendly
those
amendments.
amendments.
Yeah, I thought we were doing.
We're not
Do not
friends.
allow
We're
friendly
not allowed,
amendments.
remember? That was our, so I will withdraw and let Councilmember Allison Osby make the resolution change. Or-
I would like to move to make an amendment.
Correct.
So I actually have two things I want to discuss regarding this, but I'll address what Deputy Mayor Herman brought up. I would like to reduce the revolving loan fund amount by $422,000 and have that be reduced to $900,000 and increase the GO borrowing by $422,000 to $11,822. Yes.
Wait.
Wait.
1 million.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 1 million.
I'm sorry.
And I will second that.
Discussion?
I mean, I would just say that is to echo what Councilmember Herman already said, and I mean, as the chair of the Long Range Finance Committee, we were, the revolving loan fund kind of came out of our jurisdiction, and we have seen significant impact with that revolving loan fund, and I think that, you know, we need to keep that strong, and especially with Oshkosh Corp staying and the new business development that we're going to see or have coming to us, we need as many tools in our toolbox as possible.
Councilmember Palmieri.
Yes, I'll be supporting that as well, because I also feel that, you know, we've talked about, again, putting more weight behind the entrepreneurial in our economic development. And I think that by us reducing that amount, or rather adding that amount back into the revolving loan fund and changing that $422,000 for geo borrowing will help us support that, not just in word, but in deed.
Councilmember Allison Osby.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have one question prior to voting, because there is something in which Ms. Larson and I had talked about, and I do want to bring it up because it wasn't something that's necessarily, that is a discussion that's at a point to be on capital improvement, but I certainly don't want to catch anybody by surprise as we move forward into next year's budget. So I'm not sure when that's appropriate to talk about, if that would be after we vote on this, and that could be a discussion after.
Go ahead.
Go ahead right now?
Sure.
Are my council members okay with that? Okay. Because Mr. Herman beat me to the punch on the button. I was going to actually discuss this prior, but I had a conversation with Ms. Larson throughout this process regarding both the need for an improved rescue boat for the fire department, and as well as we've talked about a training facility for a number of years that we've kind of pushed aside. And I've had a few conversations within the community. I do know that we do have a facility that we are using at the technical college, I believe up in Appleton. But I do think that there is a need, certainly here, especially with, as we have our you know, those with longevity that are starting to retire, and we have a number of new firefighters that are coming to us. Some may have experience, some may not as much. At any point, I think we always hire great staff, but I think it's, again, one of those tools in the toolbox. But a couple of things. So with that, there's potential grant money, but we don't know what that is. There's potential private relationships, but we're not 100% sure on that. So while those were discussions to be included in here, it still gives us an opportunity to see if there's any, you know, where if we have a project that runs under budget, as well as, you know, again, what kind of public-private relationships do we have? So it wasn't necessarily appropriate to put it in the CIP budget for 2018, but I want to make the public aware, as well as council members, that that is a discussion that is currently going on.
Thank you.
If I just make a comment off of that, I know Chief Franz and I had a kind of discussion on that order about the boat. I would like to see us entertain talking to Winnebago County a little more about our firefighters being trained in the operation of the county rescue boat that's off the Broad Street by the railroad bridge, because if our firefighters can respond faster than the sheriff's office for an emergency call. I think having our firefighters trained in the operation of the boat and the equipment on the boat, since they already have a mutual aid agreement with Ice Rescue and our ice rescue boats, that it would be appropriate, I would think, and Winnebago County would entertain at least a discussion with the sheriff's office and take it from there with the mutual aid agreement. But I concur that we need to look down the road for our own boat and maybe our own training facilities and things.
I think the boat is I think is a fair compromise, because I know Chief Franz and I have had discussions in the past where I would love to find people that fall through the ice that we have to rescue, as it does endanger the lives of others besides themselves. He's also pointed out that, you know, that may be a reason why people would not call if in distress. So I think making sure that we have proper equipment, and maybe perhaps exploring what Deputy Mayor Herman said, you know, might be something appropriate and a nice compromise.
You look like you're going to say something. If there's no further discussion, we are now taking the roll on the amended.
Oh, no, on the amendment.
The amendment.
Amendment. Peck?
Aye.
Palmieri?
Aye.
Allison Osby?
Aye.
Berman?
Aye.
Pansky?
Aye.
Krause?
Aye.
Mayor Cummings?
Aye.
Carried 7.
We will vote on Resolution 17588 as amended, the 2018 Capital Improvement Program. Need a motion then?
So moved.
No, it's
Okay.
already on.
Take the roll, please.
Peck?
Aye.
Palmieri?
Aye.
Allison Osby?
Aye.
Herman?
Aye.
Pansky?
Aye.
Krause?
Aye.
Mayor Cummings?
Aye.
Carried 7.
There's nothing on the agenda for council discussion, direction to city manager, and future agenda items. I see no one sitting out there that wishes to make citizen statements. It's all staff. So we'll move to council member announcements and statements. And that goes to me, and I just want to talk about the fire department toy and food drive coming up in December. And Scott, do you have the slide for the dates and so forth? So here, the start time is 5 o'clock. Here are the dates, the station, and where they're located. It's just a great event. They have collected, Tim, thousands of toys and money and food over the, how many years has this been going on? Okay, so 17 years. It's a great event. I've walked in the event. I think most of my colleagues have. It's a lot of fun. It's a good community program, and last year there were a couple of nights that had to be canceled because it was so bitterly cold. I think they still exceeded their expectations of the previous year as far as collection. So, you know, when you see the truck coming down the street, and we'll see it and hear it. Be ready to give food, toys, and cash. But it's just a great event. So, thank you to our fire department and our paramedics. Councilman Pansky.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, a little personal update. I will be traveling to China, and I will be pretty much unavailable. We're leaving tomorrow and returning on the 10th. I should be available. I don't have a phone that works internationally, so I won't be available through regular telephone calls. I'll try to get to Wi-Fi and check my email, but Mr. Roloff has my itinerary with the information to get a hold of me, so if something does come up, at least I'm accessible. But for the citizens, if you are contacting me, I apologize for any delay, but I will be unavailable. Thank you.
10th of December?
Correct.
Have fun.
City manager announcements and statements. Mr. Roloff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A number of items of contracts that we've approved and working on. Our geotechnical engineering evaluation for our 2018 capital improvements. We're getting a head start on that, working with professional services industries on that. Similarly, working with CH2M Hill, planning for the Ripple Avenue water extension, and working with them on the regulating station design and permitting. There's a lot of permitting that has to go through with that one. The other one is KL Engineering. With the announcement of Oshkosh Corporation, we've initiated work with KL Engineering. We actually did a request for proposals on that one and got about, I believe, 5 or 6 different proposals. 5, thanks, James. 5 different proposals, and KL Engineering came to us highly recommended from actually another engineering firm. So we're happy to hear that. I do have the third quarter executive summary for the strategic plan. I really would, when we do the fourth quarter, I want to do sort of a halfway point type of thing. So this is just a snapshot of where we're at. Just in brief summary, the 94% of our projects are on track. 18% are already completed. That doesn't reflect the ones that are in progress. You know, they might be 50% done. If they're not 100% done, we don't take credit for those. So the 18% completed is actually very good given the third quarter, but 94% on track, which is really, I think, the big thing. There's a handful of things in there, and I did the strategic plan before the expense summary. Thanks, Trina. But they were so engaged in listening to me, I thought I was doing all right. I'm sorry about that. I'm doing number 40, not number 39. But that's our strategic plan update. Unless you have any questions on the strategic plan, I'll backtrack to the third quarter, and I'll have Ms. Larson fill you in on that as well.
Yeah, I did just have a quick question on there. I know it's a different format than we've been getting. We were getting the big spreadsheets, and so this is a little more visual. I just had a question on the, in the first slide, for example, where we have status and then we have progress. So we got 92% on the status, for example, on strategic goal 3, and then a 27% progress, 27% completed. Could you just explain for the public, if they're looking at this, the difference between the status and the percent complete? I know we know that, but sometimes it doesn't come across.
No, thank you. The status reflects how well we're progressing towards completion. And so 92% for strategic goal 3 means 92% of the work we're doing is on track for completion by the end of our 2-year strategic plan process. As far as progress, it's actual progress that we can check something off and say it's 100% completed. 27% of our projects that we're working on in that area have already been completed. So they're going to be completed, and there's no additional work necessary to be completed with those. So, and we do have a more detailed report, which I'm happy to provide you. It's a little thicker with each of the individual objectives within the goals, and going to be sending that to you under separate cover. The third quarter financials, even though we just approved the budget, Trina, anything to highlight with the third quarter, or just on track with our year-end estimates?
They are tracking with our year-end estimates that were proposed in our budget.
And then we have the arena update, which for those of you who were there last night, it's progressing, and our street work is progressing very well. The side streets were open. That was really the last big thing, of course. We all know about the storm sewer, so I won't belabor that point. And then just one more last thing for me. December 10th, the museum is going to be holding an open house. Council had asked about having open houses at different city facilities, and that was in our strategic plan. Mr. Larson with the museum is going to be opening up the museum on that date for the public at no charge, so come and enjoy it on the deck the halls, and the new People of the Waters exhibit. I certainly encourage you. I plan to be there and hope you will too. That's December 10th. And the hours, is Brad still back there, or did he take off?
No, he left.
I believe it's at 1 o'clock, but I will get you the exact number.
We'll put it, we can put it on the website
And
too.
we'll get it on the website. This is my only time to tell you about it at the meeting, so, but I'll get the times.
Yeah, I was there last week with my grandson, and he at 3, he really, really enjoyed the exhibits. And the only thing is, he said, I can't touch them. There's a reason. There's a reason. But it just looks great inside. And
it is a fantastic exhibit. And I think this opportunity for the public to take advantage, it reminds me a lot of Doors Open Milwaukee, where, you know, different components and different departments are open up that you may not have looked at before. So I encourage everybody to take advantage of this.
And that's all I have.
I will turn it over to Deputy Mayor Herman, who wants to make a motion to go into closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that following the adjournment of this meeting, the council may convene in a closed session pursuant to section 19.85, parent 1, parent C of the Wisconsin State Statutes to discuss the performance evaluation and compensation regarding the city manager, the employee over which the common council has jurisdiction and exercises responsibility.
Second.
Please take the roll.
Peck,
Aye.
Palmieri,
Aye.
Gallus Nasby,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Kansky,
Aye.
Krause,
Aye.
Mayor Cummings.
Aye. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Adjourn.
Want us to leave our budget book?